We are meeting in the Moose Hill Council Chambers, and this is the Capital Improvement Program Committee meeting. The first item, I just want to go over the agenda real quick. So first I'm going to do is the approval of meeting minutes from the June 13th meeting. We'll do the project overview and presentations from the school district. Fiscal year 24-2029 Capital Improvement Program deliberations. Then we'll cover any other business if there is any, and then we'll adjourn the meeting. So before we start, any changes to the agenda?
Sure. Mr. Chair, I'd like to move to ratify the votes taken at the meeting held on June 13th, 2022.
Okay. Discussion? Any changes? No?
This is to ratify the vote, not to do the minutes.
Correct. Yep. So at this point, do we make any changes? Are those?
Nope.
No? Okay.
The vote, all I need you guys to do is approve that you're happy with the votes.
All in favor of the votes as presented?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye? Okay.
Abstain, I wasn't here, so.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I was not here actually last meeting, so I can't vote on that. Wasn't here last meeting.
Still 3-2.
It's,
Yeah.
It's still 3, yeah. Yep. Okay, all right, so the votes remain as is. All right, thank you. All right, the next item, approval of minutes from the June 13th meeting. Any changes to the meeting minutes? No changes? The vote on the meeting minutes as is? All in favor, aye? Aye. All right,
Abstain?
Abstain.
abstain? Aye? Okay. All in favor? Okay, no changes? All right. Moving forward to the project overview and presentations. So Peter, how's this going to work? What's
Well, I'll set the
plan?
table, then obviously introduce the presenters.
Okay.
And then I got a few comments after.
Okay.
So, as many of you know, whether you've been on the CIP committee or just in town, the school district a couple of years ago decided to undergo a comprehensive project of evaluating or assessing all the school buildings. And so we went ahead and hired Trident as like the program consultant. Later on, the committee voted to bring on LBA, LaValle Brenzer, as the architect. And so the task was for them was to go through all the buildings and come back with a comprehensive report or assessment on the buildings, such as where are we with the age of the buildings, mechanicals, HVAC, right? Where are we with code, both code, I'll say building fire code, but also code with DOE, as we know, the buildings, as interim superintendent Dan Black put on his presentation, the buildings are old. So we know that way back when DOE had certain requirements for buildings, and of course they've changed over the period of 25 and 30 years. So where are our buildings from respect to that? And where are our buildings in respect to the changes of delivery of instruction and curriculum today as they were built for when or how instruction was delivered back in the 40s and 50s? And then are there any other improvements that the administration or the teachers feel are necessary to continue to make Londonderry a vibrant and comprehensive quality program? So what you have is the first is the draw out of what they found. The board itself has not taken any formal action yet. They've got the report April, May. Obviously, number one on the list, and it'd be no surprise, is Moose Hill and the kindergarten, what to do with that. But there's a lot in the presentation that we'll have, and there's obviously, if you really need a sleep aid, a 300-page detailed report of what they found. And so what the process now is to decipher the planning board and the school board and everything, how to lay out this plan. And what to do. I mean, the total project you'll see is expensive, but I will say Salem undertook the same type of project, maybe not as high, but quite a bit, and are now working their way. I think they're almost done with their multi-million-dollar cut. I think 100 175, 200, not,
Around 250.
right. Almost the same number as us, updating their buildings, similar to what the report that we're working off of today. So I thought it was important, we thought it was important that if we're talking about capital planning, that this committee should get the report, the presentation from the people who did it. So you have a clear understanding as the capital planning committee, but also your community leaders. So people come to you and say, what's going on with the schools? You got a comprehensive report, presentation, and you can then, in good faith, explain to somebody who'll ask you why this project is moving forward, and not say, well, I don't know anything about it.
Okay.
So we'll do the presentation.
Yeah.
Then I got a couple comments after, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, yeah, just for the, just want to make sure I understand what's going to happen tonight. The presentations, are we going to cover exactly, do we have everything, all the board members here have the same packet information? Has anything been distributed anywhere else, or?
You guys have all the same information. The presentation that's on your screens is the most up-to-date one. It was
Okay.
just given to me. So the one you've been emailed out is not.
Okay,
But the one on your screens is.
okay,
I can send this one out tomorrow.
Okay.
So you have the most up-to-date one. There was not very many changes in it.
Right.
But yes, you guys have all the information that has been put out there.
okay. Are we going to share the scoring that's taken place already, or is that going to be on the screen
Yes,
also?
it will be
Okay,
on the screen.
okay.
So after they're done with their presentation, I will pull up a spreadsheet that will show what
The school
they have
district
scored, what
submitted.
the school district scored the projects as. Then you guys will score the projects, and then you will rank the projects based on.
Okay. So my understanding is that we go through the presentations, we'll have some Q&A session?
I'll comments about bonds and notes, and then if you want to have you're the chair, a Q&A, since there's people in the public, and then the scoring and the ranking, so to speak, as Amy brought up.
Okay, sounds good. All right, we can get started.
Hi, I'm Dan Black. I'm the interim superintendent for the school district. I just have a few things to say, and then we turn it over to Eric, who's from the Valley Brensinger. So you go to the first slide. So again, there's a big study that happened, and I think we basically learned a few things. We have old buildings. Probably the best way to say that is parts of our buildings are old. The school board and myself and other members of administration know we have to start to really think about a long-term plan. If you have old buildings, they're not going to stay as they are forever. And I think, one thing that really came to light in this process is because the buildings are old, the needs of our schools are different from when they were built. So those are three big things that kind of hang over everything you see today. Then, Peter already said this, but just say it again, the school board is yet to figure out our priorities. Or their priorities. So just keep that in mind. Peter did a good job of kind of packaging this plan into the CIP format, but this is much bigger than a 6-year process, probably close to 20 years, maybe more, maybe less. But what you're going to see is the needs of all 6 of our buildings, and it will take a while to address all those needs. For all the planning up here, I think there's more scrutiny and analysis needs to happen by both the school board, myself, and others. And then the fourth thing kind of hanging out there is you're going to see lots on our buildings. Obviously, we're still leasing our SAU office, so that's kind of hanging in the background too, and what we do with that in terms of our long-term plan. And the last thing we're going to say is kind of just a reiteration is, what the school board is going to start to do, I think, in the coming meetings is really think about the next 0 to 5 years. Right now, we're out of permanent space in our kindergarten building, Moose Hill, so that's driving some of our decision-making. And hopefully there's a kindergarten committee that can start to engage the community at large around what do we think about full-day kindergarten or continuing with our half-day program. There are, obviously old parts of our buildings, and we have to really figure out, is anything going to break in the next 0 to 5 years? And if it is, we want to get ahead of it. And then also, if we start that process, what do our students need in those schools? Because they are different than when they were built. And then I think from there, it's beyond 5 years. It's a 5 to 10 year process, and then 10 years after that. So I think the school board is going to start to dive in kind of this longer term planning. So that kind of sets the table for everything there it's going to share with you.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. My name is Eric LeBlanc. I'm with the Valley Brensinger Architects. So we've actually been working with the district now for a couple of years. At any point in this presentation, if you have questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. There's a lot of information. I have about 28 slides. It's actually been reduced from presentations we've given to this committee in the past, as well as the school board. But there's a lot of information in the slides. I'll do my best to summarize everything for you. And I wanted to start with an overview of what our process has been so far. So really, we were brought on to start at task 1, which was evaluating what the existing additions of all of your school buildings are. We walked through with administrators and with facilities, we walked through with a team of engineers and a team of architects, really understand what condition your building's in, get all the information we need. What's the condition of the mechanical systems, the exterior wall systems, the physical spaces themselves, are they undersized? Really, that was our effort to document everything about all of your school buildings. Task 2 was really involving educators and administrative staff. So we actually worked with principals and staff, sent out questionnaires, did surveys, and what we were really trying to figure out is how are the buildings being used? What's missing from the buildings now that is detrimental to the curriculum? So what are those programming needs? Task 3, which really was an integration of tasks 1 and 2, it was really figuring out, okay, how do we take the physical needs of each of these buildings, combine it with the programming needs that we're hearing about from school administrators and staff to be able to come up with a concept for each building. We actually worked with the building committee and we came up with a couple of concepts for each of your school buildings. Ultimately, we landed on one concept, and I'll be sharing those very briefly with you tonight so you have an understanding of what those look like. And then here we are at task 4, right in the middle. We are starting to figure out how to prioritize those projects, what the long-term plan is. We have not yet determined what that is. It's really just presenting that information to you, to the school board, and to the town so we understand what the options are. And then future tasks involve conceptual design, so that really is about, once we have an idea of what the project could be, refining it further. Task 6 is really all about getting district-wide engagement and community engagement into the project and make sure that we're integrating all those thoughts and opinions. And then task 7 would be eventual preparation for a bond vote. So what I want to do is go building by building for each. So some of the existing conditions report you actually may have seen in a presentation last year. This is condensed from that 300-page report that we produced as part of task 1. So I'm going to do my best to summarize all of that for you. Once I talk a little bit about the existing additions, I'll get into a little bit about what we learned from programming, from speaking with school administrators. And then I'll get into the selected concept for each building. So, the high school, I'm going to start at one of the more complicated buildings. Like many of the buildings in the district, it does have multiple vintages, so it's been added onto a number of different times. What we've tried to do for each building is score it basically on a scale of 10 to 100. So 10, which is red, means the system is at the end of its service life, it's due for failure, and 100 is the system is relatively new, and anywhere in that 40 to 60 range, that means that system is in the midspan of its service life. It shouldn't come as a shock to anyone that the 1971 building, the oldest part of the high school, you are starting to see a lot of very old systems in that building, old interior finishes, the envelopes beginning to fall apart. Mechanical systems, the rooftop units are very old. Your facilities team has done quite an amazing job really extending the life of many of these pieces of mechanical equipment. Typically, we expect those mechanical equipment pieces to last 25 to 30 years, but your facilities has extended that life. But when you start looking at the system as a whole and getting past that 30 years, it becomes very difficult to source parts for those systems to be able to replace them. And you ultimately spend up more money maintaining those aging systems than you would if you had a new fuel-efficient system. And again, with electrical systems in this building, you have fluorescent lighting, old building controls. And structural systems probably stands out a little to you as well. We're not saying any of the buildings have imminent life safety issues, but what that does highlight is that this is a wood-framed building. So the floor and the walls are wood frame. That type of construction is actually not allowed by building code. We understand that the way it's framed, structural code has changed over time in terms of accommodating snow load on the roof, as well as shear load for seismic forces. And that's all to say that this building just wasn't assembled with all of those things in mind. And to be able to modify it at this point, you would spend a lot more trying to modify this building than to tear it down. And you'll see that in our future concepts.
Total square footage, 279 in that range, right? Add up all those square footage.
Yes, yep. So you can get a sense of each phase of the building, and so you're seeing a lot of reds and oranges in phase 1, and then 2, 3, 4, and 6, and then some greens in phase 5 in the gym. But just keep in mind those square footages. So the majority of that square footage are the older buildings from the 70s. So those are 50-year-old buildings, again, not typically suited to 21st century learning. The classrooms are not set up ideally. I will note that phase 1 also has a lot of classrooms on the interior of the building. So those are classrooms without windows, without access to natural light and natural ventilation. And we know that that's tied to student scores and student outcomes. So we know that having classrooms on the perimeter and having access to natural light improves student scores. And again, not surprisingly, your newer buildings will score better. I think many people think of the 96 and 02 buildings in the standalone gym as newer buildings in the district, but at the same time, those are 20 plus years old at this point. So for mechanical systems, they're approaching, just past the midpoint of their service life. So we even need to start planning for some of these buildings that we think of as newer.
Eric. And Eric mentioned it, but we'll put it in layman terms. Most of us know this, obviously Bob does. Phase 1 is where the plywood floor is. I know he mentioned it, but when you walk, it's getting a little bit rubbery. And also, if you remember, the plywood floor is the reason that the high school footprint cannot be expanded any larger than it is now. Whether that's good or bad, but the plywood floor by fire code is the reason that the footprint of the main building cannot be expanded. If you remember, a few years ago, I don't know how many, there was an auditorium committee was thinking about an auditorium, and it had to be 10 or 15 feet away from the building, and that's because the footprint, because of the plywood floor, would not allow the main building footprint to be expanded. So that's structural issues, it's all kinds of issues.
Thanks.
Structural issues, and our engineers were of that same opinion, that it would be very difficult to try to modify and add on to this building at this point, given the condition it's in. And I will add too, a lot of the buildings, so another important piece of the architectural is any building designed and built before 1990, 91 usually comes with a lot of accessibility issues. And by that I mean people that are wheelchair bound or have mobility issues. Typically in new buildings, we have to design turning radiuses, pull clearances around doors. We have to have ramps up to the building. A lot of these older buildings simply don't have those kind of measures to improve accessibility for anyone with mobility issues. So something to keep in mind with really any of these buildings built prior to the 90s. So what we just summarized there was the physical building. The next slide for each of the buildings for this building is about programming. So we met with the school principal, we met with administrators and staff to understand, again, what are the issues, what are you dealing with on a day-to-day basis in surveys and questionnaires. One thing that kept coming up about this building was lack of an auditorium and a large multipurpose gathering area that was consistently identified as the highest need for the high school. I won't go through all these because they're listed here, but I'll note that, special ed space comes up quite a bit when we're looking at all of the buildings. Modernizing the cafeteria and kitchen, typically in a lot of these buildings they're undersized. And then small group rooms and flexible learning rooms, which are really the spaces for those one-on-one breakout areas, or those four-on-one areas in these buildings. Again, buildings that were designed 50 years ago weren't designed to accommodate those types of learning spaces and learning needs. So at the bottom, you'll see the summary. The current area of the high school is 281,000 square feet. The second number is what we would propose to meet DOE compliance, Department of Education compliance. So that would be right-sizing all of your classrooms to meet DOE minimums. So all your classrooms would be 900 square feet, and any other related program would meet that minimum, and accommodating all of the program needs that were listed out as part of the design. And so we're seeing a delta of, in this building, of about 75,000 square feet from what you have to meet DOE requirements and meet all these programming needs.
Mr. Chair, just one point before we move. The fourth line down is an addition to gym and PE space. Those who were around, the idea was that we built the gym as it is, and we were supposed to, like, it's the Londonderry way, Bob knows this, to come back in a few years and finish it. Well, it's 20 years. We haven't never gotten back around to finishing the gym. If you know that the small parking lot, as you're facing the gym, that small parking lot to the left, that was supposed to have been building space, 2 floors. The top floor was supposed to be a large, multi-purpose floor area, and then below it was additional, like, locker rooms and weight room. We were supposed to come back in year 2 or 3 and finish it, and we're in 2022.
So the next slide is the selected concept for the high school. I don't want to get too into the building design. I'll preface this by saying these are very conceptual. So what that's saying is we're not laying out every program space. It's really just figuring out, okay, what were the identified program needs? What buildings had the biggest facility needs in terms of the physical building? And how do we start right-sizing those programs? So to kind of summarize this, we are looking at a significant 2-story classroom wing addition. All of these projects are feasible, so we would not displace program without having a spot for it in a new addition or a new building. So we're not proposing interrupting or discontinuing any programming for any period of time. We could do this as a phased approach. So I'll try to explain these as if we were doing it that way. So we would do the new addition on the north right side of your screen first. Then that gives us the flex space to be able to remove some of the older portions of the building. So we would propose that phase 1, the wood frame building, is removed, along with phase 2, which is a lot of the 70s building. In its place, we do a brand new entry with a learning commons. The media center would be centrally located. It would be across from a brand new cafeteria and kitchen that would be right sized for the student population, along with new administrative spaces and additional nurse spaces. And then really taking the spot of phase 1 would be that auditorium, that highest need. And again, with all these concepts, we have the opportunity to look at site circulation, what drop-off sequences are like for cars and buses, how students are entering the building. We can improve security. Any space that we're proposing to be left in place, like you see, phase 5 of this building is a really good condition, but some of the older phases in the upper left, we would propose renovating those spaces and mechanical systems, so we wouldn't just leave some of those older buildings in place. We would renovate those. The bottom right, you're seeing an order of magnitude cost, so that's about $99 million. That's as if you were to begin this process today and complete construction in a few years. So that's not accounting for escalation. If you were to propose doing this project, say, 10 years down the road, that number would be very different. And I'll also add that we're architects, we're not estimators. We have not worked with contractors to this point. These are very conceptual designs. How we come up with these numbers are basically historic cost per square foot for schools that we've done in the past, and we apply a year-to-year escalation on those, as we all know, the times that we're living in, you basically can't count on any price you get, so there's a lot of flex in these numbers, but I wanted to put that as a disclaimer just as you start to see some of these concepts. And again, I'm just going to show you the first floor typically for these. Again, there's a second floor in this building too. We did show the gymnasium addition with that added PE space.
Eric, if I could just add to that, Peter brought up the Salem School projects that we've been involved in. The high school in Salem was about, it's similar in size. I think it was 360,000 square feet in total, which pretty much aligns with what is being proposed for the new work there. That completed about 4 years ago. It took us 2.5 years to build it, so we're at maybe 7-year-old dollars, maybe 8-year-old dollars, and that project was $75 million. So I would say the 98, 750 that is being listed here is a reasonably accurate projection as to what it would be, as Eric noted, in this time frame last Thursday, because we don't know what things are happening by next Tuesday.
Sure.
Yep.
So, later on in the presentation, will you be able to let us know the displacement, where you put an overlay here, the displacement of the field, et cetera? I'm sure that's gonna be brought up or even questioned, and where that would actually go. Is that part of that $98 million, is that?
Yes,
In the
yep.
plan?
We factored in
All right.
field displacement, parking, all the site stuff as well.
Okay.
We basically had a kind of a hard cost for site, so, but yes, it does include that.
Thank
Just one, that 98 million reflects the DOE requirements for square footage? Is that where we're at?
Yeah, so it would be right-sizing all of
Right-sizing?
your programs to meet that DOE minimum. And that is hard construction costs and soft costs, so that would include, things like permitting fees, design fees, engineering fees. It would include classroom technology, AV upgrades, furniture, so it really is an all-in cost.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, oh, excuse me. Does this report in the entire collective report also account for any growth management plans or anything, the preliminary population, school age population, and how
Sorry,
that-
did you say roof?
growth
Oh, growth
population?
man-
Yep, growth management.
I'd have to look to see if we have, I don't know is there an updated demographic report? Have you worked with? I'm not sure.
It
was based on the demographics that were projected 2 years ago.
Okay.
When we first started.
Okay. So, any other questions on the high school? About to jump to the next building. So the next one is your middle school. Again, as with many of your existing buildings, a couple of different vintages here. So the original building is the 1982 building. Again, a building from the early 80s. We're looking at some interior finishes that are, heavily deteriorated. Structural systems. If you look in the detailed report, you'll see sometimes why a structural system gets a lower grade. And it'll say because a lot of times even a project as simple as doing a renovation or a roof replacement might actually trigger some significant structural upgrades. So basically, if we were to renovate parts of the 1982 building, the energy code would actually require us to add insulation to the roof. By adding that insulation, we're not only adding additional weight of insulation, but we're adding the R value to the roof per energy code. In the winter, there's a potential for additional snow accumulation, so the roof holds snow longer and it can hold more snow. So basically what structural code tells us is if we were to increase the roof to meet energy code, we then may have to do structural upgrades with that building. And typically for buildings that are framed with steel joists, it becomes very difficult and cost prohibitive to do so. So that's kind of a little bit of a background, and similar with seismic loads and some other structural requirements. A lot of these buildings just weren't designed to meet modern structural code. 1997 building, again, relatively good condition. Some of the systems are in the middle part of their life. The whole building, mechanical, electrical, plumbing assessment, a lot of the rooftop units are old or in need of replacement. You have some very old electrical panels, old fire alarm panels, upgrades, some alarm devices for the fire alarm systems, and then again, some of those building automation systems, which is what controls the mechanical systems and controlling heating and cooling and ventilation throughout the building, are in the middle part of their life. And again, some of the programming needs with this building through our teacher interviews found out that the library should be modernized. The cafeteria is actually a big issue in this building. It's undersized for the student population. Again, kitchen updates. There was a note about reconfiguring the entrance to make it a more welcoming entrance and appropriate for the student population. Physical education spaces. And then again, the summary at the bottom. So you're currently at 156,000 square feet. And with those proposed program updates and to meet DOE compliance, you'd be at 182,000 square feet. So that's a delta of about 25,000, 26,000 square feet. And so the concept for this building, again, we would look at doing a significant addition onto this building. One of the comments was that the newer 97 edition had the team set up. So really you had these nice areas with groups of classrooms where teachers could work with the students in a group setting. And there are other parts in the building, in the 80s building, that don't afford that same kind of learning environment. So what we're proposing is a classroom addition on the south part of the site that mimics that same team structure. Once that new addition is built, that then gives us the flex space to demo parts of the 82 building. Parts of that building are very old. It does have some classrooms on the interior, again, without access to natural light, some accessibility issues throughout. And really what this allows us to do is a brand new entry, brand new classroom wing, new media center, new STEM lab, new art and music room, and again, bring it up to DOE compliance, make all those program updates. So again, if you were to start this project now and construction continue out over the next few years, this would be about a $50 or $51 million project.
For comparison, we're currently doing the Woodbury Middle School in Salem. That is going to net out at about 168,000 square feet. And we're in that $50 million range all in currently. We're about 50% complete.
Any questions on the middle school? So next is Matthew Thornton. So this building is notable. It actually has the oldest building in the district. The rectangular piece that you see in the foreground with the dark roof, that building's actually from 1949. So if you can imagine, education has changed quite a bit since 1949 in terms of educational standards and curriculum and accessibility standards. So here, this was our assessment. Again, not surprisingly, the 1949 and 1960s building. A lot of upgrades needed in terms of interior finishes, the envelope, the window systems, the roof. We did have reports of leaks in that building. Structural systems, again, any kind of structural upgrade to parts of this building would be very challenging to meet current code. The 85 building does fare better, given that it's been very well maintained. The MEPs as a whole, we do know that this building has a lot of old rooftop mechanical units. Fire alarm systems, the fire alarm control panel was recommended to be upgraded. Plumbing systems, which includes not just piping, but also plumbing fixtures like toilets and sinks, typically are dated and don't meet accessibility requirements. Building automation scores very low here. I understand that the district had been upgrading this last summer, so that may actually be higher than a 10 if the district has made those upgrades. And again, some of our programming concept, our programming comments, this building does lack small group spaces. They do need additional special ed spaces. A lot of the elementary schools noted that they did want a STEM lab and like more of a project-based learning space. So this building currently is about 75,000 square feet. And again, to meet DOE compliance and do all these program updates, puts us at about 91,000 square feet, which is a difference of about 16,000 square feet. So for this concept, again, we propose a significant addition onto the building. We looked at doing a one-story classroom wing that would really extend on the back of the building. It would increase the area for the cafeteria and kitchen and right-size those spaces. It would add additional classrooms that we'll be displacing by demoing some of the 1940s and 60s buildings in the front, and have all of those necessary special ed, small breakout room spaces. And then again, as you'll see, the whole front of the building, which is the 1940s building, we would propose demoing, having a brand new entry sequence, secure, with administrative offices, new nurse suite. And again, all of these concepts are very early design, but it gives us an opportunity to look at what the site circulation is like in drop-off sequences and parking. So we've tried to consider that in all of these options. This building, so this concept, rings in at about 31 million, 32 million. So any questions on Matthew Thornton?
Questions? No?
So next one is North School. So again, multiple vintages here, 1960s buildings. We're talking about buildings that are 60 years old at this point. So some of the finishes, interior and exterior envelope. This building has some very old windows and some very old exterior wall systems. A lot of these buildings, especially 60s buildings, don't have insulation in the walls. So it would definitely be accurate to say a lot of them are energy hogs, and they don't use energy efficiently. So you're spending more on energy costs on a yearly basis. The 1990s buildings and 2006 building, this one had some pretty recent additions. Those fare very well. And then again, mechanical systems, electrical systems at the midpoint of their service life. Given that this has had multiple additions over time, sometimes you have systems that are holdovers from the 60s buildings, some old electrical panels, some very old lighting systems that are due for upgrade. So some of the programming needs, completely new kitchen. There's definitely a lack of staff restrooms in this building that was noted. There are some missing offices, so there's some staff members that need offices that simply don't have their own office in this building. And again, a lot of those small group, one-on-one, and intervention spaces are missing throughout. So the current area is 60,000 square feet. This would go up to almost 82,000 square feet, which is a difference of about 22,000. So this building had fewer additions overall. We were able to do kind of a series of smaller additions off of parts of the building and demolish a little bit less. This would give you permanent art and music spaces, so we found a home for those. It would give you the additional service spaces, additional classroom space, and special ed space. It extends the cafeteria, which is undersized. It would extend the kitchen. We'd move the media center. And in place of the media center, we could provide a STEM lab. And again, a brand new entry sequence with a new entry commons and improve that experience. This comes in at just under $19 million.
Mr. Chair, the gentleman, I don't remember your name, I apologize.
Oh, yeah,
To
Jeff
your
Pinto.
question about enrollment, this school, based on what we know, what's going on in the north end, the south end is pretty much built out in the middle. This might be, by the time we get to it, this might be the one school that needs additional size classroom than what we have now. Just to your point about enrollment, based on what we know, what's being built out, this, by the time we get to it, 5 years, 6 years, whatever, this is the one school that I could see we may need to go back and add classrooms or whatever because of the enrollment coming in from that area.
Yeah, thank you.
Any questions on North School?
Questions? Nope.
So South School. So likely to elicit some strong reactions here. So the big white rectangular piece at the middle of this building has that iconic sawtooth roof design. So that building is a 1978 building. You'll see that it scores very poorly. From an educational standpoint, again, this building has a lot of classrooms on the interior of the building. Those classrooms do have natural light from those sawtooth, but they don't have direct views out. They don't really have great ventilation. We wouldn't design education spaces modern day to be that way. Structurally, it's an issue because, well, we understand that in the set they did accommodate for added snow load in this building. It certainly doesn't meet modern structural code. We know that this sawtooth design collects snow really well, and it collects snow drifting. It collects water really well. So it's an ongoing maintenance issue. We did recommend in the report that if you had drifting on this building upwards of a certain amount, then we would recommend that you go up there and remove that snow, which is challenging, not safe for your facilities people.
And we have many, as Bob knows, many winters since I've been here, we've gone up the south school roof and manually removed feet.
Yeah, so it presents a lot of issues, and that is the majority of that building, that 48,000, almost 49,000 square feet. This building has the most recent addition, 2008, and that 96 edition, which again are in relatively great shape for their age and condition. It does have some very old mechanical systems, so again, the report details some very old rooftop units that are due for replacement. Again, some of those plumbing systems and building automation systems are getting to the midpoint of their service life. So this is a very full slide compared to some of the other buildings. So a lot of programming needs, completely new kitchen. Again, as with many of the elementary schools, a comment about a STEM lab, a makerspace, all those small group rooms. They need a larger sensory room. That was a big need for this building, some of their special education programs. This one flat out needed more classrooms, so very similar to the comment about North Building. This building is bursting at the seam for just more classroom space. So this one is currently, again, at 73,000 square feet. We propose going up to 96,000 square feet, which is a difference of about 23,000. So understanding the challenges of the 1978 building and the roof design, and given that it's the majority of the building, we did look at multiple concepts for this. The concept we landed on was removing the existing building altogether. It's achievable because there is property behind that school, so we could build what we're proposing here to be a new 2-story elementary school behind the existing building. Again, you could phase it so that you'd have the new building, and then you could remove the existing building and replace those displaced playing fields. And again, it gives you an opportunity to look at site circulation and parking. This is a conceptual design again, so but again, the takeaway from South School is the condition of this building is very challenging. It would be challenging to do significant addition or renovation, and the committee and the engineering team decided that the best route would be a new building altogether for South School. And you'll see the projected cost of almost $57 million. So any questions on South School? Okay, I promise you we're almost done here. So last school is Moose Hill. So obviously one of the newer buildings in the district. Hasn't had any piecemeal additions over time. It does have a couple of portables. Relatively speaking, this building's in really great condition. It's been well maintained. Even though it was built in 2000, it's still a 20-plus-year-old building at this point. So as I mentioned with mechanical systems, they've been very well maintained, but even being 20-year-old air handlers on the roof, we start to see those needing service over time. So they're at the midpoint of their service life. Some of the programming needs from the very start, aside from the issue of full-day kindergarten, this building is undersized, and we know that because you have portables, and even with those portables, we know that they are bursting at the seams for space. So again, a lot of programming needs we're identifying here. If you were to go to full-day kindergarten, you would need permanent locations for the kitchen and cafeteria, multi-purpose room, art and music rooms, additional special ed spaces, additional classrooms, the space for the little flex, reading rooms. So what it boils down to is your existing building is 34,000, almost 35,000 square feet. We would have to more than double the size of this building in order to meet DOE standards and in order to accommodate full-day kindergarten with all those additional programs.
Just to give you an idea of the change and use of the building, since I think I'm the only one that was here. Bob obviously was in the community. When Moose Hill opened, 2 classrooms were used for LEAP. Now I think I know it's 50-50, it might even be 60-40 LEAP.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot of growth here. This concept is broken down into 2 phases. So phase 1 would be to do the additions that you need now to get that additional classroom space without going to full day kindergarten. And you'll see that that's that small addition off of the existing building kind of on the left side of the page. And that would be about a $9 million addition. Phase 2 would be if you were to go to full day kindergarten, we could add on to this building another wing off of the existing, have those additional classroom spaces, those additional special ed spaces, and then basically where the current portable is, you could have permanent spaces for art and music, cafeteria, all of those spaces that you would need for full day kindergarten. And again, looking at the site holistically, we know there's issues with queuing on the site and backing up into the road when buses come and when parents come. So it gives us an opportunity to look at how the site is being used and what circulation is like around the building. And again, integrating those play areas. Again, just a concept, but this is how we think we could approach it. So again, once you add those 2 numbers together, you're at about $30 million. So any questions on the kindergarten, Moose Hill? So I'll just summarize kind of the whole report. Again, that was meant to be a brief summary of what we put out in the full 300-page report. I know it still felt very long-winded for me, but that's all to say that nearly all the schools need some kind of significant investment. All the schools are short on space. When you add it all together, you're at about 200,000 gross square feet of need for all the buildings. We know that there are parts of the high school, particularly phase 1, that are in very poor condition. They don't meet current building code. There are some issues that we'd want to address. Questionable longevity in terms of construction of the building, it being wood framed. Same thing with South School. We're aware of the sawtooth roof design and some of the other structural issues associated with that. And then again, full day kindergarten. We understand that's a pivotal issue for the district and helps us prioritize long-term how to approach the master plan, given that we know we're not doing everything all at once. It has to be a phased approach.
Do we know if on phase 1, does it prepare us for phase 2?
For Moose Hill?
Moose Hill?
Yes. Yep.
So that's the assumption that if we do this for phase 1, now it's the best way to go and approach phase 2.
Yes.
It's cost-effective approach,
Yep. So the concept is basically
setting it up.
understanding that we're doing phase 2
Okay,
as well.
all right,
So.
good, okay.
You know, and to go back another bigger picture, you know, I hope what we've learned is, you know, the average age of our schools is 40 years, so they're old, and some parts are older than others. The population in that time has doubled. We did update this number on the.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So in the updated presentation, I think what the report found is there's about $40 million in updates when it just comes to mechanical windows and things like that. There's nothing to do with square feet and space and things.
Right, just like mechanical upgrades and making improvements, but not right-sizing classrooms. That sort of thing.
And then, you know, one of the challenges we have day to day is trying to educate in the 21st century with older buildings. And I think that constantly comes up against our programming needs and it becomes difficult. So if you go to the next slide, I mean, I think, you know, one thing that the school board and myself and others have to really dig on is, okay, what do we need in our schools right now? There's a lot of needs that were kind of articulated by our staff. Maybe some of them are wants, some of them are needs. But we have to really think through what do we need to do with our space to make it ideal for students now. We have a lot more pressures than we did in the 1970s and 80s, or even 1940s, that we're trying to rise to. So that's one thing that we'll have to be thinking about in terms of coming up with our priorities. So there's a lot out there. If you go to the next slide. You know, so what the school board's going to do is really think through the priorities. Obviously, full day kindergarten or staying kindergarten as is one of the things we really have to think about. That's a programmatic decision. But I think there's also just facilities decisions. You know, I think it was obviously concerning to watch Matthew Thornton leak this winter. You know, it's a very old building and it leaked. You know, we want to get ahead of those problems, especially a lot of the mechanical issues that this report really highlighted in all of our buildings. And then I think once the school board has really come up with its priorities and start to map that out over a long period of time, and I think we have to be comfortable with that. This is not a 6-year process. This is probably a 20-year process to really update and tackle all the needs in front of us. And then just goes back to the slide that Eric started with, is once that direction's been decided, then it's about engaging the community, developing more detailed plans, really scrutinizing what's up here. These are big picture conceptual ideas. And then getting to the point where we think we have a building or investment we want to make. So that's where this is all going. And I think we did our best to kind of share all this with the CIP committee.
Peter?
Well, just a couple of facts before we get into the scoring, or that you, as either budget or planning, need to be aware of. First of all, the debt schedule for the school district, the entire debt schedule
Yep.
expires 2029. So that means, not being funny, but there's no more debt. No, the whole current debt of the school district is paid off. Some people can say that's great, because obviously you don't need to have debt or debt payments in your budget and property tax. That could also be looked at as a negative, certainly by maybe the investors, and I might say investors like Moody's and Standards and Poor and whatever, where they could come back and say, you haven't been periodically investing in your infrastructure, your buildings on a periodic basis. And that can be a negative, or I'll say a gray mark if and when, you start selling notes and they start doing your rating, your rating perspective. When I was at the town, and I don't remember what year it was, I'm going to say 95, there were some representatives, the town had invited some representatives up to the airport area when the airport was being expanded. Manchester invited them to, Londonderry joined. And then they came and had a special talk with us, and that was one of the issues they brought up, was the lack of infrastructure improvements that the school had, given the amount of enrollment. If you remember back then, enrollment was increasing. And they actually brought that up as a risk, that you're not investing in your buildings to meet the enrollment demand. So wanted to bring that up, that, the bond, the debt service or whatever. The available debt of the school district, and obviously we don't have the new number, but as of June 21 was like 357 million. That's per RSA, I think it's 32.4 something, where the school district is allowed to have up to 7% of the net property value of the school district. So those are a couple of numbers that when people ask, can we afford this or whatever, you need to know that. The other thing, and I think I came up, Mr. Chairman, in your budget committee, and we can talk more about it at your budget committee meeting. There's a difference between authorized bonds and notes and issuance of bonds and notes. And I bring that up because, like, when Salem, we could issue in March 23, we could have an article, raise and appropriate $277 million to fulfill the report by LBA. And let's say that passes, just for discussion. There is no effect on the property tax. There's no effect on the budget at that point. That just says that the school board has the authority to expend via bonds and notes up to $277 million for the purpose of school buildings. I'll keep it simple. Nothing hits the budget or the property tax until the actual bond is sold, right? Perfect example of that is, I think it was a 94 was the $5 million for 4A. And it sat there for how many years as what's called authorized unissued. And it sits in the balance sheet or the notes of the audit that the school district has this many bonds and notes as a liability, and then a note saying this is the amount of bonds that have been authorized but not issued by the school district. So there's two parts of a bond. One is the approval of the bond, and it sits there, and there's no effect on the tax rate or the budget until the school district sells the note. And then based on the interest rate and amount and how long, that annual payment, annual debt payment and interest is what affects. And that's why, for example, you go back to Salem, they decided to go ahead and issue the authorized to $250 million, like a discussion, knowing that on a period of years that these parts, you know, as they introduce it, at the high school, then on to the middle school, then on the elementary, that parts of that authorization was being sold, and that's when it hits the. So the $250 million doesn't hit the property tax on budget in 1 year. It's when it's actually sold.
Okay.
And I think that got brought up at the tail end of your budget meeting,
Yeah,
and I've
sure.
actually heard that from other people.
Yep. All right, thank you. All right. So we have questions from the audience. I just want to see, what was the next plan here? What are we going to see on the slides, I guess? What's going to be presented?
What's next would be, we bring up the table, and the committee goes through the criteria, evaluation criteria, and gives each criteria a score. You'll see the department score next to that the school district gave to each project. And then the committee will rank, give it a priority, and then place it on where it would go into the CIP.
How, are we able to see sort of the information that was submitted from the school district, sort of?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that was
Yes.
my next question, because what was submitted by the school district, I'd like to kind of hear their justification.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting at.
Like,
Yep,
on
that's
why
why
they
we're here.
went
Yep.
from 3 and 4.
Sure. Yep.
So what I want to ask is, from the very beginning, primary effect of the project, checked 1, and all 4 are selected. Can we identify 1? I mean, that's the purpose here. I know all 4
Yes.
apply, but what is it that's driving it? I mean, can we get to that point here or on this?
If you had to pick one, I'd say improve quality of existing facility or equipment. But it does check off because the reason why I did the 4 of them is Part A and a Part B. Part A is just expanding the classrooms to meet existing enrollment. Part B is to add a whole program or half a program, making it a full-time. So I was kind of trying to do both at the same time.
All right, so improved quality would be the one that you would select, if you were to select just 1. Okay. I mean, if anyone here, feel free to ask questions on what's happening. I have a few other questions, I just want to see what questions the committee has.
Did you want the public, did somebody from the
Oh,
public?
yeah.
I wasn't sure, for public comment or questions, do you want to ask those now or before we start scoring? Now? Okay. All right, 2 to 3 minutes? Thank you. 1 minute? Yep.
Tony DeFrancesco, Cheshire Court. I think you have a logistics issue here. Who rank ordered this? The school district
But I was
office?
just gonna ask.
The school administration has
school
always
administration.
provided the ranking or whatever, scoring, whatever word you want to use.
But the school board hasn't reacted to any part of the report.
Not yet.
The school board hasn't said, we're gonna knock anything down, we're gonna build anything up, we're gonna do, so I don't know how, and you guys are advisory anyway, but that's besides the point. I don't know how you can rank order something that's even less than a wish list. One person's opinion.
So the process has always been, at least I've been here, that the administration provides our initial scoring to the CIP. You as a committee obviously can agree with us or disagree with us and change it or whatever. And then that goes part of the final CIP presentation. It's your report. Right now, it's like our report to you.
Correct. Yep.
Once you, the group, put your stamp on it, it becomes the CIP's committee report to the planning board for the workshop, and then obviously then on to the public hearing for final approval.
So the CIP plan is a planning document. The projects that are proposed are, for planning purposes. It doesn't mean that any of these are going to get built. It doesn't mean that any of these are going to happen. It's just, this is what you see coming down the road for the next 5 or 6 years so that the town can plan ahead for things. So it's an advisory document. This committee is made up of a number of different members from different
Committees.
committees.
Yep.
And so it's an advisory document. The scoring of it just is ranking it based on the criteria. This goes before the planning board and they vote on the plan so that the budget committee and the town can see what is coming down the road. So it is purely a planning document.
Right.
don't know if it's coming down the road.
That's true, but it can change every year. So we go through the CIP process every year. So this is their best guess for the next couple of years. And it gives the town a chance to plan ahead. And then next year, it will get revised, and there will be another opportunity to go through this process again.
So the CIP document is per RSA, because of certain ordinances that we have, certain planning processes we have, it's strictly a planning document. In the case of something like this, you know, the committee can decide to put it all in year 6 and rank it as a 0. It's at their discretion.
I think, you know, the first note I have on my page here is the school board needs to prioritize these. I feel like, well, I understand you guys have put a priority on it, you know, having a priority from the school board and what they, you know, they might see this as priority number 3 of 4 projects or what have you. I think it's important to have the school board's input on it, maybe before we make a final decision here. Now, the school board has not made it. Does the school board have any intention of making, you know, where's the school board at wanting to make a decision on this right now?
Dan Black brought that up at our last agenda last Tuesday, that we're starting to put it back on the agenda because this whole package got delivered to us in mid-May. We've had some other things, closing out school and getting staff and the new year kicked off with some major staff changes. So Dan has put on the agenda and going to continue that we're going to start to prioritize. If this is something we should do, you know, I'm not speaking for the school board, but I agree with you in that, knowing where it is and working with Dan and his staff to have a rating to kind of be able to come in front of this committee.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because I know it's only a document, but it could be all over the place.
Yeah, it still sets the
and that,
table here.
so,
You know, there's obviously a lot here, so I think
Right.
maybe getting some sort of opinion from the school board,
So,
again, this is my opinion.
I'll let Dan chime in on
Yep,
that.
we're already mapped out. We're going to start a bigger discussion on August 18th, and then kind of go from there. From talking to LaValle Brensinger and the Trident Group, it would take us, 4-6 weeks at least to get some serious progress done. I mean, I think we all saw in May and June when we got this big study done, it was going to be hard to kind of mesh well with the CIP committee, knowing your deadlines. So we did our best to kind of share, but we're not far enough down the process for your means.
Let me ask the committee this then. Would the school's evaluation affect your decision when you're
Of course, I think it's very preemptive. I mean, we're almost trying to put a square peg in a round hole. If it, we're trying to say, yeah, we're trying to say, hey, we're trying to make it because our schedule is here and their schedule's there. Well, maybe we should rethink that schedule because it seems preemptive and we don't have even an opinion. The people that are actually working the administration in school, they're gonna want what they're gonna want, but it's the elected officials that have the, checkbook. And so that's a very, very important opinion to take into consideration.
Do you feel, again, I'm not just putting it out there, do you feel that you don't have the information available now to you to make decisions?
To be able to see the difference.
Yeah.
I'm really looking, they came in and said, yep, somebody came in, the school board and said, we agree 100% with this evaluation and these scorings. Okay, but I'm interested to see the delta
Yeah.
between the two. Where do they think they can have some room to move, as a board? That's kind of real, because again, this is so much data there, and I just want to see the difference between their opinion and the administration.
All right, my concern is that
Timeline.
timeline is number one, and the other factor is the influence that some school members might have on others in the committee in their evaluations.
Right.
So can we move forward with this tonight can they add in the school board can we add another column? Is that possible?
So, again, this is an advisory
Yeah,
document.
I agree, yeah.
We can move forward tonight with the committee's scoring. When the school board weighs in on their stuff, it will be considered with the budget committee and with the town council, what that says, separate from the CIP document.
So, can I have a question? So the workshop is September,
It's September, yeah.
I can't remember the date,
I'm looking that up right now.
mid-September, I believe.
September 14th.
It's pretty close. So if that's what you want, then you could have either a rep of the school board show up at the planning board workshop
Yeah.
and say, upon further review, if I use a little football analogy, the school board has decided to do this, this, and this. I mean, keep in mind, technically, this is one project, $277 million.
Yeah.
And what we just did was parcel out 3 pieces of this project based on the logistics that makes sense going on the way.
Okay. John, I know you have something to say. Again, I just want to make sure.
It's a long process.
I just want to make sure, I don't understand why the school board can't vote separately and have the planning board look at all 3.
They can.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. I mean, 15 years of running this committee, basically, if I had this in front of me right now, I would probably look at it and say, the only place I can put it is in years 4 to 6. And I can base my scoring as a committee based on it being years 4 and 6, based on the criteria presented to you. Your scoring may be very different than what the administration has represented to you.
Correct.
The document is not final until the planning board has it. The planning board can change everything in the document if they want to.
All right.
You're only passing along, basically, you're passing along a worksheet to them and saying, this is based on our due diligence, much like the budget committee does with the charitable contributions. They pass it on to the council, and then the council makes the decision. It's totally within your authority to do that.
But why wouldn't the school board have a ranking that they can include for the planning board?
The planning board can make that decision
a
if
planning
they
board
want
would
to
have to
do
make
that,
that?
but that has to be a planning board decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're working within the criteria of the workshop that, and the rules that you've been given. Now, if the planning board decides that by vote that they want to add another column, totally up to them.
How do we recommend that, or to the planning board and say, that, this is the decision that the committee, the CIP committee has stated and that we've discussed, and we feel that it's important for them to have?
I would probably suggest that you work your way through the process tonight.
Yep.
When you
Yep.
conclude your meeting, through the staff, you let the chairman of the planning board know that this is the position of the committee.
Okay.
And advise the, the planning department and the chairman of the planning board that you believe that this needs to be done. Then it's out of your hands and they need to make that decision.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman.
yes.
Actually, I want to ask John a question.
Yeah, John, just real quick.
John, I just want to ask you a quick question, since you have a lot of history in it.
Why'd I step down?
Yeah. No, I just, one of the things that, is this the way it normally comes over from the school? It comes from administration? That documents never had school committee input?
That's a yes and no. There have been times that the school department and all other departments, you'll see things on, from the town end that never made it to the town council. That said that, we're looking at building a new DPW building or something. And we'll put that out in year 4 or 6 or something. Part of what goes on here is that, when they come in and they do your bond ratings, they're also looking at what you're planning and what your future debt may look like. There's another number of triggers around growth management ordinances and everything else within the state regs. So part of the reason we have this committee is to meet all those criteria. So the answer is yes and no. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I think the question you're asking is for this large of amount of money, we probably should have had input from the school board, and that probably would have been a good idea.
I'm just so surprised that this is the way it's gone.
Yeah, I agree, that's,
So that's all.
Well, as I said, for 22 years, the administration has done the scoring. Now, keep in mind, this is not done out of a vacuum. I mean, we meet all the time with the school board. Bob is liaison or whatever, so it's not like we don't understand the priorities of what's going on.
I'm
But-
sorry, I didn't mean to get hung up on it. I just.
No,
was
I-
Can I just
surprised.
Can I add to that, Steve?
Yeah.
I think that the problem here, Peter, is everybody's looking at the magnitude of 300 million, that the school district has never done this in this town. It's always been
10 million, 5 million.
5 million here. Now this committee's looking at, where do we start? We don't know what
Right.
the top priority is, so I think that's the
So
concern.
I think what we did was,
That's
outside of-
I think what we did
Mr. Chair.
was take the 277 million and logistically figure out for logistics
Yep.
to start, what would be the best order. And just so you know how we thought through, Moose Hill was obviously the first one because of the enrollment in kindergarten, right? Then we looked at middle and high or elementaries, okay? You look at LBA, they'll tell you the number one priority after Moose Hill and is the plywood flooring at the high school. Logistics. So I put middle school and high school together as one bucket of project. And I did that because the third piece is the elementaries. And you want, when you do the bond, you want the 3 elementaries to be together. Because Lisa goes to North School, I go to Matthew Thornton, Dan goes to South. He's not gonna vote on the bond unless he's guaranteed that South School is gonna be upgraded of some sort. I think if you remember what Nashua, and Bob was around, and we were around, one thing Nashua did correctly, when they built Nashua North, I gotta get it right, when they built Nashua North, they guaranteed in writing to the citizens, right, that South would be built equally to equal, so the 2 schools are gonna be the same. So Lisa's kids are not going to the cruddy north-south, and I'm going to the brand-new Nashua North. So I put the 3 elementaries together, so they would all get upgraded at the same time. So logistically, that's how we did this. I'm not saying the school board doesn't have different ideas, and certainly for tonight, I would recommend to go through it. Then let the school board, either chair or the vice chair or Bob as a liaison,
Yep.
go to the workshop after deliberation at one or 2 board meetings. So you know what, logistically we're fine. I'm just making this up. We're gonna flip the elementaries and high school because we wanna get the elementaries and the little kids done first or something.
okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the biggest concern from my point of view is the only public mention of this entire 300 million project was at the school board meeting, and it was a great presentation, and thank you guys for coming back and delivering it to the CIP committee here. Then the second public aspect would be this committee. So now we're being asked to prioritize in a worksheet, it's a planning document, totally understand that, something that the school board really hasn't even assessed. Now, everything you just said, Peter, I absolutely 110% agree with, but I still didn't see anything within the presentation documents that we received to justify why these items were scored that way. So I don't know, with additional time, additional input from the school board, we could get that. But I think from my standpoint, this is the first time that this town, since CIP has been commissioned, is really kind of looking at redesigning our entire school district. And I think there needs to be more eyes on that before it comes from an advisory aspect that is just being glued into the project at this point. So that's kind of where I'm standing.
And I agree with it, that's what I'm saying, you've got you've got a workshop at the planning board, and you get the public hearing. So there are still two opportunities. I'm just,
Yeah.
Yep. Can you come up to the front, please?
Ray Breslin. I'm just a citizen, and you folks are doing a fine job here to get control of all of these issues, and I appreciate that.
Thanks, Ray.
A lot of you know far more than I do. But I would just like to say that, we're talking about some really major projects, maybe over a 20-year period of time, but we're talking about either rebuilding or tearing down or modifying, whatever we're going to do, a lot of work over this period of time. And once again, we're talking about it's advisory, you're looking at it. I think we need to include the public in here somehow. I don't know how we do that, but I think we need to include the parents in all of this decision. I mean, which one are we going to address first? Is it going to be kindergarten? Is it going to be the high school? Which one? I just think it's important that the public be included and their opinion be taken into account. I'm not finding fault with what you're doing. You're looking at everything and trying to address these things. Peter brought up a good point about when you're bonding and so forth, they look at this. They look at what have you done in the past to maintain your buildings? I would have to ask, if we're saying that all these buildings are either in, well, we're not saying they're in poor shape, but we're saying if we're going to tear it down, building down and restart it, then what kind of shape is it in? For various reasons, okay? If anybody wants to ask me a question, go ahead. Anybody agree with what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, asking about public involvement, and,
That's
Yeah.
kind of, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
I'll make a comment on that. I think he's illustrated something that I was trying to bring out. I said one word, but really what it was the administration doesn't get elected by the people. So the people, the school board, again, sorry to be hung up on it, but the school board actually has the accountability to the people. Right?
Correct.
They represent the
Yep.
people. So that what he's saying here, that has not been even presented
been
to us.
factored into this.
So again, that's the thing that's
Yeah.
a little, I know I'm
Yep.
being repetitive here, but that's kind of what, thank you for driving my point.
Yeah.
I agree.
Can we get one more question? Okay, all right.
So-
And
so
then I just
if
want
you-
to start this.
So to John's point,
Yeah.
if you do a three, whatever it says, desirable, pushes it to 4 to 6 years,
Yeah.
then that gives Joe can sleep at night because there's going to be plenty of input, and Ray never sleeps, so it doesn't matter. But but that gives plenty of time for the public input, which full clarity, I'm on all the committees. And there's scheduled meetings already for public input on different parts of different things, and kindergarten committees and whatever. So I think it's valid, I think it's necessary, it will be done, and if you just vote 3 on all of these things because you don't know anything about them, that pushes it 4 to 6 years, gives plenty of time for public input, which will be done, and then it can move forward from there, and then a year from now, we're having a different conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just one other thing, and that is cost. I mean, we've got some figures here
Correct.
that we think they might be.
As of now.
Now,
Yeah.
you know, if it's 4 to 6 years, where are they gonna
Correct.
be? You know, so, thank you.
All right, thanks, Ray. Again, we haven't gone through each of the, the ranking that they provided so far, right? We haven't
Correct,
seen
yeah.
that. And how do we want to, for the scoring, how is that going to work? Do we all fill out our sheets and hand them in?
No, so we will
Take an average?
discuss the scoring here and agree on a committee score. We'll fill in the spreadsheet that's up on the screen, so that the committee will give a score. And then, after all the projects are scored, we will go back to the main spreadsheet. You will give it a priority ranking, and then you will put it into a year of a construction year and a AE year.
Okay. All right, can we see the rest of, I mean, if we have some questions here on the, all right, so start off with Moose Hill, and this is, are these in the order that you had presented these? Same what you figured were priorities, okay, so Moose Hill,
Yep, and these are all on your screens and they are in the handout.
I guess, sorry.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, so that's a great one, I'm glad you said that. Moose Hill's only a priority because of full-time. So if we
Correct.
think that it's not a priority
Yeah.
and disagree, right? So that's just.
no, I know, that's, how do we know?
Right.
What do the residents want? They want full-time? We don't know that. So,
We individually.
what is a committee there? for
And
the-
Moose Hill's broken into 2 phases
Yeah.
too, so I don't know if you wanna hit it that way, it's put down as one
Yeah.
project. At 20,900,000, it's actually 30 million with phase 1 and 2 on our sheets.
If the public said that that was a need, okay, but then I would probably go to the oldest school first.
Yep.
You know, and prioritize that, you know, just logically, so, whatever, what I mean, whatever. I don't wanna make it too difficult, I'm just.
Mr. Chairman, would it be helpful if Peter went through and gave you a quick synopsis of what he submitted here? And then we can score each one individually, and then you guys will get a chance to rank them.
I'm gonna say I'd like to hear all of it, because that will influence my, that's my philosophy behind it. I'd like to hear about every single one of them, what his approach was, because I might have questions. We can go through each one. I'd like to hear what his approach was for each one and why he ranked it that way. But go through each one, then we can start voting on it.
So Moose Hill, I ranked priority 1, because obviously it's got A and B. All right, so as Bob was trying to, was alluding to, right now, Moose Hill is out of space right now. If you remember, that was the 9 million plus number to simply add classroom to Moose Hill to accommodate, remove the 2 portables and then add classroom space to get to today. And then comes the question, does the town voters want to move from a half-day to a full-day kindergarten? So I think it was clear, again, we do listen to school board meetings, we attend them all, that it was clear from the past year that Moose Hill, something needs to be done at Moose Hill, and that was clear on everybody's agenda that Moose Hill needs to be addressed before anything else. Whether you just add the classrooms to alleviate today's enrollment, or the town says, go to full-day kindergarten. That's why Moose Hill was the priority 1.
Wouldn't Moose Hill also be a driver because it sort of feeds the rest of the schools?
Possibly, but from us, we need space now.
Correct.
Need space now. So, or you go to full-day kindergarten. It is obviously the base, but it is out of room right now.
Okay.
And, a little evidence, obviously, is that the two portables, that we all said wanted to be there 1 year, wanted to be there 2 years, and it's now 3 years.
Okay.
Steve, can I
Yep.
add to that is, and the reason I've been on the committee for 3 years now, since it started, the master plan, but to do phase one of Moose Hill, I think that's why it's not broken down on here, phase one, phase two, because the kindergarten committee is still months away from any decision on,
Yeah.
they haven't even started with the community yet, whether we're gonna proceed this year, next year. But phase one puts those 4 additional classrooms, 2
Yep.
special ed classrooms, and removes the portables, which would have to go go to full day. So you would need that ahead of time, because you would have nowhere to put those 2 classrooms during construction for
Correct.
full day.
Yep.
So just to kind of give you a little bit of
That's why it's number
background
one.
on that.
Okay.
So,
Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
may I suggest, so you said we go through this and then we'd go to the scoring and see if there's a consensus in the room as far as what?
I was hoping to hear everything first
I
from
just-
from
I have
Peter.
bad memory, so I just.
Oh, yeah, I was,
So that's the summary
understand, yeah.
of Moose Hill.
okay, all right.
The next one is,
Just a second,
I'm
so
sorry.
let's, you selected on their rationale for the, right, so, I got hung up on every single one where we have public health or safety.
okay.
Urgent
So,
need.
Mr. Chairman, you're new. Mr. Farrell's been here, how many? 50. And I'm gonna say in 12 of the 22 years that I've been at the CIP committee, I've asked that if you look at these forms, they are skewed towards municipal government. Right off the bat, public health and safety. So the school district mission is not public health and safety. The town's mission, not picking on John, but, he's the chairman of the council. The mission of the town is public health and safety. That's their core mission. Would you agree? And then other things come, financial stewardship of money and all that. Well, the core mission of the school is curriculum education and school safety. So whenever I had public health or whatever, I assimilated that's the mission, and our mission is education, and so I, in my mind, substituted education, curriculum, and schools when they brought up public health and safety.
I just,
And I've asked for a while to get a form, exactly why you're bringing it up, that allows the school the same kind of, what you're just bringing up.
yeah,
Otherwise, if you go through the list for the school, there is really nothing there that the school can address. Public health and safety, we would say no almost every time. But where do I put a 5 or whatever number it is for curriculum, instruction, and whatever? There's no room. So I just substituted, when you hear public health and safety as the core for town, I put education and I used education and curriculum.
yeah. The only problem I have is a disconnect between safety and education. I just find safety,
You're not gonna have education without safety.
yeah, safety is, I believe, is everyone's number one concern.
I understand that.
And that's why I don't want to commingle it with education. I just think,
I've asked to get I've asked for the form to be,
yeah, yeah.
because I don't have any place. Again, I went back to what is the core mission of the town? Public health and safety. That's why it's number one, because obviously, whenever public health and safety is affected, that's the number one button. For us, though, our mission is education.
Correct, I
You won't
understand.
see anything about improving education on any of those forms.
Mr. Chairman, maybe I would suggest, after we go through this, because I've already filled it out, maybe
Yeah.
looking at the form
Yeah,
simply. And
So I have to make a correlation that they're talking about the mission of the town, we're talking about the mission of the school. So
okay,
that's
so
how
as long as we're aware of that, why your scoring
Yeah.
was high in that area, because you're factoring in education into that bucket. Okay, all right. Joe, I'm sorry, you
Yeah, no,
wanted
I
to
just, I think we can
continue on?
understand what your point was and take that suggestion and
Move
maybe
forward.
that's one of our to-do lists, get this form right. fitted for
Exactly,
us,
yep.
so.
So
Yep.
this form is from the planning board, so any suggestions to modify it would need to be taken to the planning board, and they would need to approve the changes.
Okay,
Or advisory.
And they are open to suggestions on how to change it.
Good.
okay. All right. Next page.
This is, are you done with the middle and high school?
Just the Moose Hill, there was, what about the cost? Was there? Thought I saw a section in there. Okay. Right there, yeah, you scroll up,
But that isn't right.
yeah.
If it's phase 1 and 2, it's 30 million.
Yeah, see, I didn't know which, right, I didn't, so I would put the 30 in, you're correct.
Okay.
I would change it to 30, and, because that's probably, and then if, you know, that's the full project. Obviously, if we don't like full kindergarten, obviously, be adjusted to the 9 million number.
So is this something that will be updated before it gets presented to the planning board?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
one of us will fix it.
And
The-
then cost impacts, I'm sorry, Amy.
The spreadsheet will be updated with the new number.
Okay.
Right.
And then the cost impacts on the right-hand side, so if known, it's, so we don't know, or what's,
I don't know what the increase in operating costs again,
yeah,
which one? So,
correct, yeah,
if you're gonna go with the full-day kindergarten, I think Lisa and I did a spreadsheet few years ago. I think we can get that spreadsheet, maybe add CPI, to kind of, give you a ballpark number, what that would be.
Yeah.
And we'll base it on full-day kindergarten.
again, we're being asked here as a committee to score something, very, very high-level data here.
I understand. I just, I don't wanna put a number in where I know
Yeah.
it's not right either.
Okay. Okay.
Just a quick clarification. So obviously, Peter, you scored this 1 out of 4, the department priority. If you could scroll up. I just want to kind of point of clarity. That means that you are saying that this is an urgent need, correct?
Based on what the conversations with the school board the last couple of years, this is their number one priority. Again, if you want to break it down to urgent need, I would say the urgent need.
I'm breaking
No,
it
no,
down.
I understand.
I'm breaking it down to the criteria.
I would
the
say
six scoring that
urgent
we
need
have.
is, I'm gonna call it 1A, which is the,
Phase 1, 6 classrooms.
correct.
Yep.
You wanna call that urgent, and then I'll say, whatever one step less than urgent is full-day kindergarten. Full-day kindergarten, okay, so urgent is, you need to get the classrooms for the kindergarten to move on correctly.
Yep.
That's the 6 classrooms.
Yep.
Kindergarten becomes a philosophical decision between, right, the school district and the taxpayers, whether philosophically they buy in or agree with that full-day kindergarten enhances the value of the overall education process.
Okay.
But urgent need, I would say, like
Would be
this
the
March or
6.
something, is the 6 classrooms to address the space crunch that's there now.
And that's the 9 million.
9+, right.
Is that Jeff?
So would it be, acceptable to kind of ask to break it out that way?
So I could do a 1A,
Like,
1B.
like I'm just kind of looking at it from, okay, the urgent request is the 6 classrooms, yes,
Which is a
totally.
need to have versus a want to have. type of
Exactly.
thing.
The want to have would be, I would even put the full day, at minimum
I
of-
could do a 1A, 1B. We get it out, what's the, the end of the week,
yeah.
right? I could
I
get
would
that
feel,
out, but early next week.
personally, Mr. Chair, I would feel more comfortable with that, just
Right.
to kind of break.
I
down
get-
that pro-
that's
that
fine.
That's
project.
understandable, no,
That's understandable. We can get it to Amy like the beginning of next week.
okay.
Thanks.
But, so that leads to the question, how are we going to vote on it tonight and score it? Are we going to score it as 1A?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, because that's the urgent need, right? Okay,
Not to put you on the spot, do you feel like the kindergarten's the most important need, most urgent need?
Yes.
Okay, thank
The
you.
1A is.
well, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, we're treating it as 1A,
Right.
we're voting
Yeah.
as 1A. We're not
Yeah.
looking at the full day because we have
Yep.
no information about the full day, where it's
Yep.
going.
Correct.
Okay,
That helps a lot, too.
all right. Yep, can continue on. Amy? do want to see the evaluation section of what was in here.
Or which, I'm sorry, which
No,
section?
keep going, yeah, I think it's page 4. Okay,
This is what I, Mr. Chairman, if I-
Yep.
this is what I was thinking about. If we, as you're going through it.
Yep.
We don't have to vote on it, but
Yep.
kind of get a consensus that we're thinking that, you know, that's kind of where we're at.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You know, and
Fair
then we
enough.
can say, at
Well-
least,
yep,
Hold on, Joe, just so, if you go, there's a sheet where it has what we did, but you're voting tonight, a separate column. Amy, do we have that?
Yes.
okay.
yeah,
And that's your vote, committee
Correct.
score.
Yep.
So I put a 5, the committee can say, no, 4 is the highest we're going, or that kind of number.
so again, scoring of 5, very high. Clarify for me what a 5 means to you.
Has to get done.
Has to get done. It has to get
From an
done,
education standpoint, not
Correct.
a safety standpoint.
That's not what, okay. Not what it says on the sheet here, okay.
Yeah, on the CIP score.
well, it's very confusing, because it goes the opposite way, that's,
Yeah, this goes 1 to 5 the other way around, yeah.
That's what, that was a
the grading.
great
Yeah.
question, because I was
Yep.
like.
Yeah. So at number 5, when you say number 5, you feel that it's important to get it implemented within the next 6 months, next year,
1 to 2 years.
1 to 2 years, all right. Okay, all right. So you're saying, again, emergency or public safety, again, you're factoring in education here?
I'm treating, so I'm gonna read this.
Okay.
Address the deficiency in service of facility. Right? Number 2. Is that where you're at? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, right now, Moose Hill's out of space.
Okay. And then, I think the top, 5 and 4s we want to hear about. Do we want to hear anything about these 3s, why he selected a 3? Long-term savings, long-term cost savings,
Where are we?
that's 4th one down.
Results in long-term.
Number 4.
Oh, results in long-term
Yeah, you entered a
savings.
4 for that one.
Okay. Again,
Yeah,
I'm using education
Yeah.
as a mechanism of providing savings. If you, to your point, if you deal with students in grades 1 or kindergarten 1, is there a chance that you catch them and when they get to grade 3, they're at grade 3 level? They're at grade 3 level, then the need of special services 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 are reduced.
all right.
I mean, I have to extrapolate an educational purpose versus, public fire and police.
So what, maybe this is good to go through this one more time, because all the other forms are gonna be the same.
Yep.
Matching funds available for a limited time is a 3, so what's the
Could be
thought?
building aid,
What's that?
could be building aid,
Okay.
Could be.
could be.
Do you know if there
To
are?
be fair,
So-
probably not,
Probably not, yeah.
but is it available? Yes. You want to put that as a 2? I'm okay, there is matching funds available through the state building aid.
I think, why would you want it a 5? If this is a 5, I would want that to be a 5 too, to try to offset tax implications, I mean.
Yeah, but Joe, I gotta answer correctly
Yeah.
and ethically.
Yep.
Matching funds available. The chances of me getting building aid, giving our background, our free and reduced lunch is not good. That's why I put it 3.
Well, that's good to know, that's why I'm asking.
Because
the question.
because there's a chance.
That's relevant, yep.
That's why I didn't put a 4, I didn't want to put a
Gotcha.
5.
Good.
And I will tell you, 2, 3 is the number.
And obviously, we would try.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we would definitely try to.
But
get-
if I put a 5, that means I get the grant. She has the grant right now.
Right.
Don't have it.
So I'm just gonna throw out my opinion, just because
Yeah,
I'm like in consensus with that. I mean, we kind of went over it and thought about it. So, maybe, like you said, when we get to the point where we're gonna start doing it, maybe we take it and say, hey, you know, the group, do we agree with those? You know, maybe that's how we'll do it afterwards. Because you said, Steve, you want to do it after, right, once we go through them?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're sort of in consensus with these numbers?
Yeah, I
Liz?
think the way he explained it, I think that's a prior, and again, for the first one,
Yeah.
what do we call it?
6 classrooms.
1A.
1A.
You know what I mean, right, so, we're-
I think that was the problem. When I started going through this,
yeah.
I was looking at both, so.
Mr. Chairman, we
yeah.
can update the spreadsheet and separate out Moose Hill to 1A and 1B. It'll just take me a little bit to format it. If you'd like to do both of them
And
tonight.
I'll update I'll do it,
Okay,
I'll do the sheets with 1B as full-day kindergarten.
okay. All right.
So this is the point where if the committee agrees with, in the individual, we can go 5-4, 4-5, 3-1, 3-2.
I mean, I don't want to have debates here of whether we're going to put a 5 or a 4 in there. I mean, I just want to have some type of consensus.
That's
We
what I'm
can come
saying,
to it quickly.
Yeah, do you think it's a 5? Yep, okay, well, you know, just,
Yeah. So for 1A,
yeah, so I'm thinking, yeah, just because I feel comfortable.
I agree.
so we agree with what's presented
No.
for,
Backwards on
No,
the second form.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Backwards on the
No,
second.
no, no, no.
5 is a 1 on the
It,
second form.
so on the sheets that are going through right now, 0 is very low, but 5 is very high. But on our ratings,
It's premature.
5 is premature and 1 is.
I think these are two separate
Yeah,
score, I think it's two
correct.
separate scoring.
Correct.
Yeah, I think we gotta not pay attention to this.
Correct.
right now.
Yeah.
We gotta go by what the form says, so.
Yeah.
what's next?
Give me 1 minute to catch up with you guys.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, just normally now, just, you know, 'cause,
Yeah.
you know, the committee would go line by line, you agree with the 5, or do you want to change it to 4, or 2, or 3, and then we move on to the next project. So we have a 25, you may come up with a 23, just for discussion.
All right, so based on what we have, the 1A, I'm going to refer to them as 1A and 1B, 1B being the
Full day.
full-day kindergarten. So 1A, Peter presented a score of 25. 5, 5, 5, 4, 3, 0, 3.
May I suggest?
Any changes?
Right, I was
Yeah.
saying, any suggest if there's anybody that feels strongly about a change of the number, maybe talk about it. If not, I mean, I just wanted to say my opinion was, I think it's pretty accurate, I mean, for the 1A.
Yeah, the problem, the concern I had was number 5 or public safety. I just want to make sure that, so we're factoring in education in that part. I'm fine with that, maybe the matching funds, again, what Peter was saying also, sort of to
I'm
a 2.
thinking 2, because I know it's gonna be tough,
Yeah,
Yeah.
to Peter's point.
No, it's fine, no.
So the public need is kind of rewording that, right, a little bit there. Instead of public safety, it's a public need. And why are you saying it's a 2? I'm sorry. Just-
No, just the matching funds.
matching funds.
Oh, okay.
Very- Yeah, the last one, yeah.
Okay.
Either way, that's fine.
So
we're
from
I just don't want, to Peter's point, it's very difficult to get, and there's only so many funds, 2 to 3 years out. It's, you know, right now, I think they're awarding for 24, 25
Yeah.
projects.
Yeah.
Right now, they're 2 years ahead, so.
Question on the long-term cost savings. If it's, you've got it rated as a number 4, does that mean it is, so we'll say 5 is very high, so we'll say 4 is good. Is there a good chance it's gonna result in long-term cost savings?
That's exactly what I'm looking at.
Because the
If
second
that's what you're
page-
telling me.
The second page here, I see it's gonna add personnel and increase operating and maintenance costs is what's on the first page. And then the second page says it will result in, that it will result
Yeah.
in long-term cost savings. So that to me is
I
completely
had a note in here, the
contradicting.
Well,
evaluate,
no, not contradictory, it's the point is,
It's the full day K, the 1A, okay.
yeah,
1A would be different.
exactly.
We should
Yeah.
skip Moose Hill.
We're looking at this as one,
And it's funny how everybody took it a
1A.
little differently. Like, I was thinking the things that he's saying, again, we're talking, you know, kind of a future growth, long-term type of thing. And I was thinking that over long-term, even though there's initial additional
Yes.
cost, that savings will come as those kids that are educated go into higher grades.
Upgrade,
yes,
yes.
that's what I
And
said.
that number will continue to save
Yes.
in a larger fashion than the initial.
okay.
Percentage of kids at 3rd grade are reading or writing arithmetic at 3rd grade increases, then that reduces the need of special services in 5, 6, 7, on to 12.
Anyway,
Okay.
we're splitting hairs, but yeah.
All right, so Amy, is this for 1A?
This is for 1A.
I think the only change, you're following exactly what's there, except for number 3 at the bottom, is a 2.
I don't know about, I guess it does.
Does that look right for you?
Yes,
How
1A.
how would adding 6 rooms, is this gonna support job development or increase our tax base by adding 6 rooms?
Support job development and increase tax base. Mr. Superintendent, you and Scott, how many questions do you get asked about kindergarten as people come moving in? Where's Tony D? Tony D?
Constant. Constant.
Yeah, all right. Can we vote on 1B? Or do you need, what do you need here, Amy?
We're looking for a priority, which is the green numbers below, which is the, one is urgent, 2 is.
Now we fall into this.
Now you follow that.
See, now it goes
That
the
is
other
Really
way.
right.
gotta
Now you
change
follow
that.
that one.
See, now it goes the other way.
Yeah. All right. So you, Peter, did not, you don't, so you're saying this is a 1 and urgent for you?
If we're talking about
1A.
just adding the 6 classrooms,
Yeah.
Bob, we would say it's a 1.
It's a 1.
If you're gonna go with full day K, right, somewhere like around
Can't answer that.
2 or 3, somewhere in that ballpark.
And I'm throwing it out, that may be the case, but we haven't heard all of the things that we need
Correct.
to hear.
Yeah.
I'd be
So we
more
might-
comfortable kind of doing a 2 or 3 in
Yep.
that area.
I'm good with the 2.
Yeah,
Multiple projects can have the same priority ranking.
yeah. Good.
Yep. So we're gonna go with 2 on this one.
2 on this
We could revisit it, but we're gonna go with a
Yep.
2.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good process.
Okay. So move to 1B.
1B,
Skip. Oh,
Could we go 5 on this? Needs more research, planning, and coordination.
well, I think we're gonna, on this, we would score this differently.
Okay, so let me give you my new numbers
Okay,
quickly.
Yep.
Right? Address education or whatever, the top one, I would have it as a 4. I'm going quick. Address deficiency in service facility. I'd put a 4. I can't see. Provides
Capacity.
capacity needed to existing population, future growth.
that's,
I'd be like a 2. Results in long-term cost savings. I'd leave it as a 4, because now you're talking about full day in the 3rd grade and all that kind of stuff. Can't see. Support job development tax base, I'd leave it as a 3. That's a 0. Matching funds, 2.
help me understand, provide capacity needed to serve existing population is not.
Can't
why-
see, which one?
That's the third one down.
That's the,
Provides capacity needed
Why
to serve
2?
existing population or future growth. You're talking about you're talking,
I mean, we're adding $20 million here to.
provide
something.
capacity necessary to serve existing
I would think
population.
that's high.
or future
I would think that would be a 5, you
Yeah.
know? 'Cause
That's
that
why
would-
you're doing
that
it.
would-
Because what you're
No.
doing, you need the classrooms to go to full day. So you're not increasing the capacity.
Right.
We're doing that with a small
No,
addition.
that's why I made it a
That gives
2.
us additional.
I looked at it like that too. It's the physical capacity.
Correct.
Right, versus,
We
Once
need
you make once you
space.
make the
More convenient
philosophical
for people.
decision to go to full day.
Correct.
That's when you need the classrooms. But today, I don't need,
Right.
right. No, I think
capacity
a
versus,
2
the
is,
physical.
Okay,
Yep.
I mean, personally, I want a high number, but I gotta be ethical and fair.
yeah, okay. CIP, since we don't know this, are we gonna say premature, number 5?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Number 5, CIP.
What's
we
6?
don't have any scores for in here for this one.
Can you scroll down to 6? What's 6? Just as I know, so I know. Okay, that's good. 5, yeah, okay.
Can you just copy and paste right in there, what's the
These
scores?
numbers?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, she's doing that, do we agree, or disagree with any of those numbers? Committee?
Yeah, I'm
Good.
with that.
Shouldn't we go out further in some of, oh, okay, gotcha.
Again, I mean, back to what he's saying, you gotta look further into it, but I'm
Yeah.
not sure how much of a result there is in a long-term cost saving. But like you said, there's more to it.
Yeah, I
So on
mean,
and so
address an emergency or public safety need, I would say 0, not a 4, because there's no emergency. This is like to have, I mean, I don't know what the public wants yet. I mean, how could it be an emergency, how could it be?
But it's not an emergency.
High of an
But
evaluation.
You gotta
Education.
substitute, Joe,
But that's
the
what I'm
words
saying.
Gotta put
educational needs.
education,
put
remember,
education,
he
yeah.
wanted the form changed, Joe, he wants
Okay,
education
but how-
instead of safety.
So, tell me how that's worded, I'm sorry to be crazy.
So
but how-
I read this, Joe, as an address an emergency need of education delivery
Right.
and instruction. curriculum.
Emergency need, we don't have any idea, so that's why I'm still on the same 0. I mean, 0 or 1.
To
Only
some of that,
because-
I guess, you know, if you're outside of this meeting, you're gonna see that as, I totally understand what you're saying, but if you're outside of this meeting right now,
Right,
they're gonna
you're
look at
reading
that,
it
they're gonna
as,
look at
what's
that
the
and say, what is
emergency?
the
Right.
emergency?
Yeah.
I got you.
And
So
that's
there is
that's
a
my
real,
concern
there's a
right
very
there.
Out here in the
legitimate issue
discussion,
with the way
right,
this is
knowing-
put together.
Right.
Yeah, it is.
You know, cause I totally understand
So
what you're
follow-
saying, what
follow
you're
reasons
saying, I get it.
Yeah, I
Follow
mean,
is
that
how we
top
just
two
separated it,
lines,
right?
we would be
Correct.
0 every time.
Correct.
Those top 2 lines, we would be 0 every time, and it would be artificially lowering the score.
That's just my opinion, we gotta go lower than 4, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's lower than 4.
Yeah,
2 maybe, I don't know.
2 or 3?
2.
Yep, that's okay,
2?
for now, sure.
All right.
Yeah.
There's no deficiency because it would only be a nice to have type
Yeah.
of thing, that's another 2.
Yeah.
Yep.
That-
Okay. That's good.
And it's the last one, for the, long-term cost savings, I mean, it's not, I guess if we have it, it will, but
Long-term
I don't
costs.
see the long-term cost savings of making a building bigger and adding to it. That's not saying I don't agree with it, I just don't see how
Again,
there's a,
most people reading it will not see that.
I know,
Right.
exactly, that's what I'm
That was
trying
Most
to get
people
at.
won't read into
That-
it because
that
they're not
was-
understanding
that
what
was
the
the only other one I
purpose of
was
full day K is.
gonna mention.
Exactly.
Want to throw it down a little bit, or?
Yeah, 3?
Put it 3?
Be on that one.
Break down one.
Good, thank you. Now that we have more understanding.
Yeah,
That's good.
good. All right. Middle school's next?
Well, middle and high, I think I put
Middle, you
together.
put,
And the reason why I did this, so everyone understands, I wanted, logistics was to keep the 3 elementary schools
yeah,
as a whatever. So I looked at it and said, okay, is there a reason to do the high school and middle school? Why don't we just put those 2 together? Because the high school's a lot, like 90 million. Middle school wasn't a whole lot of money. So now you're keeping them to about $100 million authorization. Again, doesn't mean you're pulling $100 million
Yeah.
out in one shot. It means you're authorizing to do the middle and high, then you're doing the 3 elementary. So that was the logistics between keeping them 3 together.
Yeah, it's 50 million for middle and 98 million for the high school.
So that's right, that's 130, and then the 3 elementaries, South School being, was
Right.
almost the same amount of money.
Yep.
So, I wanted to keep the 3 elementaries together for that, the way I described it. I didn't see any reason to have a separate authorization for high school, and then middle school gets all by itself. That's why I did these.
I'm just gonna make a recommendation.
Now you're gonna ask me which one of the 4, again, to pick?
No, I just wanna make a recommendation. I think these forms should be defined by dollar amounts then, at a certain threshold. Then you break them out, because I would treat high school and middle school differently, but I don't know, it's just,
And I'm just,
And even throwing this, and I'm
You
not
don't need middle school.
throwing an extra monkey wrench, but
Right.
to me, I think, the ages and the,
Correct.
and the amount of work that needs to be done in those other 3. We're saying that this is the second priority, right? Or third?
yeah, well, he's 3 or 4 projects.
So first was the last one, right? And, we just went to the third one. What's number 2 priority?
Number 2,
There
Oh.
is, the school district didn't
You
give
marked
a
them
number
both
2
3 or 3.
priority.
Both the 3, yeah.
Both the
So-
threes.
If I had to pick them, Joe, it would be the high school, middle school next,
Okay,
because
And that's where I differ from him, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, please.
because of the plywood floor. Being, if you ask the architects, the plywood floor of the high school is their number 1 issue,
which is a
big issue.
See, I have them on different spectrums.
Yeah.
See, I got all this years of information, so it's kind of hard for me to,
Yeah, I'm like
Break 'em out.
I'm right to the, you know, the south school and north school. I think
I'm
that's a
looking
big
at them.
priority. It's a lot of kids there, they're younger and.
Peter, I get the reason why putting them together, right? Because you're looking at it from the dollar and cents standpoint. I'm looking at it from a project by project, right? You're tackling high school, tackling middle school, or tackling middle school, high school, and then when we get to the elementary, what are those, you know,
Priorities.
what do we prioritize for the elementary schools? And I'm thinking from just and I guess from a long-term planning aspect, you know, even for the public seeing this document, they would probably potentially see it that way as well, rather than kind of grouping high school and middle
But if
school
you go
together.
back, when I talked about earlier, you have authorization, and then you have the bond issuance. So you're authorizing, you're asking the voters, whatever, to authorize the cost of, what we say, 1.3, Bob, 130.
yeah,
130 million.
50, it's 98 plus 50.
yeah, 150.
Yeah,
150 for the renovation of the middle school and high school. It doesn't mean the 150 gets
Gets up
sold
sold
on
as-
one
right.
time. You just want to get those two schools, your two schools above the elementary, sewed up, authorized. So then I would personally do the high school first. When that's done, like 2 or 3 years, then pull the note for the middle school. So we're just talking about authorizing, so recognizing, so the voters are telling the school district, yes, we agree you gotta do the middle and high school at 150, go ahead. The high school gets pulled for 90, and then 3 years later, or 2 years later, the middle school gets pulled for the 50.
Not to
I
bring
kept
up,
the elementaries together as one issue because I did not want North School to get done, and then Bob says, well, is South gonna get done? Well, maybe, depends if the voters vote on it.
I actually,
That's not fair.
I actually agree with what he's saying, but,
Right.
so can I, let me just suggest something. So if we separate the two, because I think
I
a
know,
lot of us
that's
want
what-
to separate the middle school and high school.
Yeah, the
But-
elementary school's all the same age, this is different.
But I also want to say that if you look in the bucket of 98 million, 50 million, and then all the other schools are got 60, 70 million, if I remember correctly, the presentation was, these are very aged, north, south, and the scoring, to me, indicated a much higher priority. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I have to go back and
You're
look.
talking about this right here,
Age,
Joe.
yeah.
You're talking about this
Yeah.
right here.
So to me,
Yeah.
I'm like going, okay, one building is this, another building's that, but all together, the north school, south school, those are all 1960, 1978. You know, those are all like 1949. Those are priority. That's where you gotta get it next. I mean,
But the
again,
problem-
as a bucket, but I do agree that we should probably keep it all together. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
And
As that.
And then what
bucket.
happens is the school board looks at it, and it's the education part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are the needs in each building, even though the desire may be the 1947, we may need it at the 1960
North one,
building
the north
because
one,
we're out
yeah.
of space.
Yeah, gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So-
but the bucket is still the same.
not
So if we
this
kept it that way,
committee's-
to your point, if they kept it that way and they agreed.
Yep.
It's still all the elementary schools in a bucket, you know.
That's why I'd love to
And
hear
no-
from my colleagues and
That
say,
makes sense.
this is,
And which is why we said we don't
it's
have
so
that
hard.
right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
So just to be clear, I'm separating out the middle school and the high school into two separate lines.
I'd prefer it.
I think you should, absolutely.
You okay with that?
Okay with that? Peter, can you give me the updated cost for the middle school and the high school? Do you know off the top of your head?
Cost of the middle high school.
50
No, one
million,
was
600
50-something
middle.
of them.
I wrote
Hold
them
on,
down.
hold on,
50 million, 600.
50,600,000 for middle school.
there's the middle school,
98, 750.
there's the high school.
Hold on,
50.
58.
The middle school, I'm sorry, the middle school
50
is
50 million.
50,
Yeah,
50.
600, yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And the high school was?
98, 750.
98,750,000.
Yep.
What's a couple of zeros?
And Moose Hill 1A would be how much?
9 million something.
8950. And then the other one is 20900.
That's it,
That's it.
yeah,
Hey,
Yep.
got
Yeah.
it. All right. Okay.
okay.
So you want me to score the middle school,
Yeah.
okay?
Yep.
3,
For the first one?
yep. 4. Provides capacity needed to existing population for future growth. Nope. Future growth, yeah, I got a 1,
Yeah,
2,
1 or 2,
2.
yeah.
Okay, results in long-term cost savings, I would say a 3, because they're gonna talk about energy efficiency and HVAC work and all that. Supports job development, increased tax base, nope. Leverages non-property tax revenues, again, 2, 1, you know,
2 or 1?
2. They're all there, but,
No, no.
not, I'm sorry, no, I'm sorry, the bottom one, I'm sorry.
Okay,
zero.
Bottom
thank
one's a
you.
2.
2 down.
Thank
there,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a 0.
Okay, so we have a score of 14. So planning board's gonna be asking why we scared, I mean, we sort of heard exactly what his philosophy was behind it, so we're sort of
I'll
agreeing
be
with these
there, too.
numbers.
So,
So you're gonna copy that, copy and paste?
Sure.
All the values over?
Yes.
Have we, while she's doing that, any changes that we thinking of, or since we already heard Peter's philosophy and logic behind it?
Thought he changed the numbers.
Okay,
Have
Any changes?
consensus, yeah.
no changes? Okay, we're good? On this one, middle
5.
school? Yeah,
Yep, 5.
5 is premature. Okay,
High school.
high school?
Okay, high school, addresses emergency, I'm gonna keep it a 5, because of the plywood floor. Addresses deficiency in the school, 5, plywood floor. Provides capacity needed for existing population or future growth, 3. Okay, hold on. Long-term cost savings, 3. Nope. No, and then the last one's a 2.
So now that he has that,
Yep.
does the board, I'm just asking the question, I mean,
Yep.
definition of emergency, because the word's still in there, whether or
I
not you
agree.
reword it or not, because the safety word is coming out or whatever, but emergency. So emergency to me means you step in it, somebody's gonna fall through the wood.
It seems like it's actually a 5 in this case.
For now.
But is that what we're saying?
Is
The
that
wood
what we're
so
saying?
bad that it's, that somebody will step in it and,
I heard it's bound, it's,
Come to our school tours, is it August 24th and 25th?
yeah, it's coming up.
Pretty squeaky when I was in school.
Yeah, it was,
We did a lot of our safety training, our new
Yeah.
balance training down there, and it's shocking when you like pull the doors, watch the whole wall kind of sway with you, like it's very poorly built.
see, and that's, I'm just, for us, just.
Oh,
as
I-
we're going
Because now it's going from education to emergency.
Right,
so-
and so a 5, to me, 5 should be left for that, and all the other ones should be 4s, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's,
Yeah.
if we kill everything a 5, we're saying, well, the roof is falling in, the windows are falling out, the floor is gonna buckle.
Correct.
The 5 should be left, like, for an extreme.
Well,
you know what I
okay,
mean?
so hold on, so 5, so address deficiency in service of facility is the roof. The other one is, we're getting, but remember, part of the high school project is the auditorium, changes in classroom space, addition to the gymnasium, so there's a lot of educational stuff that's being added to the high school. which gets you to the 90 million, that's what the 5 is. So I'm getting back to my educational needs, which is my core.
What do we have to do to add another line to this of
I know, it's,
addresses Peter's question?
education.
So we can have a legitimate thing where like, this is actually legitimate.
I know, that's the
It's a
problem.
safety.
Jake,
That's the
think
problem I have with
the
safety.
Request has to go to.
Absolutely.
planning board
Okay,
chair,
so we
and then-
have to
then
say
we-
yes to it
right.
first, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
we absolutely need to make
Yeah,
sure that
that's-
that's something that happens for next.
Yeah, we need to
We're
update
just
it.
gonna keep talking about it for years.
Can I make a suggestion? The first one would be a 4, as I think about the educational, whatever.
Thank you.
Not
That's-
quite a,
That's what I was talking about, like,
Right.
that- I'm glad you
Okay.
changed it,
well, I
because
have
I
to
was
think
gonna
about
suggest
it.
a change.
I have to think about it.
All right, it's good.
Yeah,
All right.
good.
So we're gonna copy those over.
I gotta give this, seriously, 1 or a 2.
Oh, yeah, but that's yours, right, yeah.
I think, I
Three?
think it should be a 2 or a 3, just
Three,
because
yeah.
again, we don't have that extra
We don't
bit of
know.
input,
Yeah,
I'm really not comfortable putting anything
Right.
a 1 here right now.
Exactly, yeah, that's
You know?
why I pushed it to a 3 in my mind, too. Yeah.
Three.
Exactly.
I'm with a 3. 3,
I'm gonna go 3 on that one.
okay.
Can I make a plea?
Yeah.
My plea would be necessary because of the plywood floor, and they would tell you that's their number 1 concern right now, of facility deficiency. That's just my plea.
Okay. Change? We're staying at 3.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
I made a plea.
All right, so now we're back to, I don't think anything else has changed here, right? So going forward,
Let's go to the elementaries.
yep,
right?
elementary now. So these are all the elementaries.
Yes.
I think, I don't know, I don't see any reason why we have to go through this part now. I think we're comfortable with how Peter's been preparing his evaluation.
We just know that he just checked off all the boxes
Yeah.
on top one.
I'll fix it, I will fix it this week.
All
That's how
right.
passionate I was about this stuff.
Those- So,
So again, on this one, where are we with safety? Define for us what your
I'm going
safety
with
is.
the educational service.
Okay,
Meaning, remember the amount of work at South, you're talking about the special ed programs that really need the
Yeah.
space that's required, and all the changes in the buildings to accommodate the educational, and delivery of education. I'm sorry. I'm
Okay.
gonna stay with my 5, and I'll stay with my 5 on the other one because of all the work that needs to be done.
okay,
and all I would just say to that is, again, I'm not trying to be repetitive.
Yep.
5 is the absolute highest emergency.
I know.
So,
yep,
if we're saying that out of the whole district, the floors are the 5,
yeah, I agree.
can't every,
Can't-
every, can't
We
everything.
gotta force
be
ourselves to, yeah.
Maybe
I
1 or
agree.
2, maybe we say, the facility here, the 5, but maybe not the address of the.
I would say if you want to put a 4, where it says provides capacity needed to serve existing population. But we are. It's an issue.
Amy,
It's a
can you
big
just
issue.
copy them over for now, and we'll debate it, and,
Yes.
so, public safety, I'm thinking it's a 4. I'm
Yeah, it's
I'm a
gotta be,
4.
yeah, 4.
I think it's a 4.
Or 4, all right, that one can be first one can be a 4, when you're ready. Yep. Capacity for future growth,
Addresses the, second one, right?
yeah, okay, we wanna go with that, all right, so how do you guys feel on that one, the 5? Deficiency?
I think out of all the schools, that's the one that's, this is South, right?
Yeah,
That's the one that's been
Yeah,
pretty.
South is in there.
Okay.
That was carrying, that South was carrying that number.
okay,
So is that an emergency type of thing that we think we all
Oh,
agree is?
South
Like the
School,
floors?
deficiency,
Is it a 4 or a 5 or?
I'm going 4 on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
4,
That could be
4 on
fair.
that one?
Yeah.
Amy,
On which one?
that one right there you're on, yep,
Yes.
I mean, 4 is very, very important.
Yeah.
It's not like it's not an emergency, yeah. So,
population growth,
Well, existing in population growth. We're talking South School is out of room.
Yeah.
and with all the special ed programs. So these adjustments are really to really align,
Yeah.
right? Special ed, that really needs an alignment of all the schools and the way we're dealing with, small classrooms for special needs and pull-out math.
Okay, I'm good with
Can you
4.
remind us what 1, 2, and 3 are again? If you can just scroll down a little bit.
Oh, that's
Those aren't the
CIP.
right ones,
This
though,
is
Joe.
separate from what the
So
scores
that's
are
the
up
other
here.
one.
You gotta look
This
at the,
is
I got you for you, yeah.
it just, there is no, just
Definition.
0 is low and 5 is high.
I got you.
Right, right.
Yes.
Right.
Okay,
It's a judgment call.
Yeah. So 4,
yeah, 4, exactly.
4 on that one, the third one down?
Yeah.
And what about,
Cost savings.
Again, this goes back to the educational component
This is elementary.
and, oh yeah,
well, they have less of an effect, right? If you're saying from the very beginning,
Yeah.
it's
this would be
critical,
less.
now we're already,
This is a 2 or a 3.
yeah, there's a
right?
2 or 3.
but you're also gonna have some significant energy savings when you tear down South, for example.
Was this the one that didn't have any insulation?
This one's a sawtooth roof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the seventies building is very little, if any, insulation.
North has no insulation, yeah.
Yeah, North doesn't have any.
3, 4?
3, I'm good with 3.
3.
3? We're good with
That's a
that.
2.
2, yeah.
And Matthew Thornton too, said that's part of the script as well, right?
Deferrable
3?
or 3? Desirable is 3. 4 to
Yeah, I
6
mean, this
years?
is out of all of them, right? North was the newer one, right? South was kind of the one that was more, so this would be a
Yeah.
3, I think.
3?
yeah.
We'll go with 3 with that one. Yep, good.
All right, you wanna score the SAU project? Go ahead.
I think we're all set with that.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
Wait a minute,
Education's not here, so why you say, you can just go ahead, Amy, just plug them in there and we'll.
Yep.
But just to understand Peter's logic behind this one in the 5.
okay,
for
so,
safety.
if you go into the, if you go into the point where you do not want a new lease or expand the lease, then that's, so you gotta do something. The emergency is, there's no facility for the administration. That's what I'm looking at. You got to the point, you're not gonna sign the lease, or you're not gonna extend it. You've gotta do something for the administration. That's,
But how
you
many
know,
years?
see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, we have,
I don't mean today.
Year 5
we're in year 5
Of what?
of
of 10.
10.
So, as much as we like it, we
Yeah.
want to do it, is it an emergency?
No.
They're not going to be displaced tomorrow or next year.
No,
or-
but
They-
you
they
asked me
could.
my logic. I was looking at.
Correct, yeah.
The point of, actually, you can't go year 5, Joe, because you gotta go almost year 3.
You're gonna have to start
Because you gotta start thinking about what you wanna do, where you wanna put it,
And if it
Bob.
takes
So at
years
least,
or a year
We
to
have 2
develop
years.
it.
We have 2 or 3 years to make a
Right.
decision.
so today, if you wanna say a 4 or 3, I'm, the way, when I did this was, I'm at the point where we're not gonna sign a lease. Where are we gonna put the administration? That's what the 5 was about.
Yeah.
Just letting you know what it would.
3? What do you
A
think?
3, go with 3.
This one's a 0, right? Wouldn't it be 2, 0, 1 deficiency? There's no deficiency, it's just a,
I didn't see it,
Again,
I didn't see
but
it.
again, we're leaving 6A Kitty Hawk. There is no facility.
But it,
So today, you're right, Joe, today it's a 0.
yeah,
right,
3 years from now, it's a different.
right, and that
Yeah.
could be next
3
year.
years from now,
That
it has a whole
could
different
take
number.
Consideration next year,
Okay.
so.
yeah.
Yeah.
I can't see it.
Provides capacity needs to serve existing
No.
population.
I don't know what I was thinking this one, sorry.
So,
0.
0,
I'm just being honest.
yeah. That one I would,
Yeah.
I would expect to be high, yeah. Not urgent, but 4, it makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and then a 5, right, for that.
Which one?
No, the
Oh.
green box.
The green box?
What are they gonna,
We're
I don't
saying,
know about needing more research.
yeah, I don't know.
I think you get all the research
Yeah,
you need. I
definitely.
think this is
I think this is a two.
really a
Three?
2.
Maybe a 2 or 3, I think.
Yeah.
You know, because if we were on
I'd say
year
2.
5 and you got 3 more years, that gives you
Within
2
3 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a 2.
So,
That's a 2,
Two.
yeah.
no, so we have a score of a 7, and we're gonna put it like a
Because,
2.
because you get cost savings.
Yeah.
You have a cost
Yeah.
savings.
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump on that if you have cost savings.
Big.
And a lot of your numbers were towards the education and safety, which this kind of got zeroed out on those 2 phases. So that
That's my
kind
point,
of,
but the skewing of this thing sometimes.
right,
Yeah, the score doesn't.
right.
The
The
score
score
doesn't
doesn't show
necessarily
what
represent
the, what
Doesn't
the,
yeah.
right.
priority of the assignment,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Exactly.
That's where the
And
new
that's the
form,
most
that's where
clearest
the new
example.
form would come in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's the clearest example of how the form needs
That's
to
a,
work. Yeah.
that's a
Yep.
business part, that's an education
Exactly.
part.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yep. How do we do, Amy?
Okay, we have 2022 CIP committee scores and priority rankings. Something didn't look right. Hang
Yep. 14, self, D14.
Yeah, I got the wrong one.
All right? You let us know what we owe you, Amy?
Amy, just back up and delete the 12 to a 4. Yeah. Backspace. There you go. There you go.
There we go. That looks better. Okay.
Middle school's department score 0.
Middle school. Same thing of
Yeah,
14.
that's a new one. That was a new one you added, Amy, so.
Yep,
Yep.
that's the department score.
Everything should be 14s. Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
Reference.
What about the high school and the elementary being, us being a 2 versus them?
Yeah,
4?
if you
Oh,
go
that's
to the
one I
right,
got wrong. Okay.
column G.
Hang on. High school.
14, yep. 14.
This is what I do all day.
Sounds awful.
It's actually fun.
Yeah, I love it, so I can pivot tables, charts.
Yeah, whenever I find a new Excel, I'm like, Excel.
Yeah, look at that trick, woo!
I'm glad there weren't more issues than that.
19 and 7, is that right? Yeah, oh yeah,
These
that's
should
because
not
we
be
changed it.
14. These should be
We went a lot different than his.
C14, yes. Yep, okay.
So what's the story here that we're looking at? So G, column F, G, and H.
So G and H are
Yeah.
this committee's score and priority assignment. F
Okay.
is the department's score.
Yeah.
And so if all of this looks good, then we just need to assign years for AE and construction years and the priority order for these.
Wouldn't it be the same as the
Yeah.
CIP committee priority?
Yeah. Why wouldn't that column
It
H
can be.
drive?
It can be.
Column
and
I,
usually
yeah.
I believe it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's going out to the general public, you're gonna need to put the scale on it. People are gonna look at 5 and say, oh my God, that's middle school's the highest priority.
The scale is on the bottom of it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Amy, do we need to wait for you to do this, or can we just move forward to meeting and?
I was gonna say, I always apologize
Yeah.
when I'm noodling around my Excel spreadsheet. for everybody.
Well, we need to assign years, so construction year and anticipated construction year and AE. Because some of these are 5, we may need to push them out further.
So if I could help out, kindergarten, I would say year 25, 26, 24, 25
For the construction?
1A?
for 1A. Well,
20,
we're doing 24, you'd be doing 24 in a little while,
So 3, 2,
so 25.
yeah,
Right,
1A, yeah.
25.
yeah.
And the others, for this, would be longer than 6 years, so put them at the end of your 6-year window.
Well, with the exception of the SAU project.
Right. That's three.
Exception, yeah, well,
Yes, that's another 2025.
This is, what, 2029?
well, how far does this go? How far we,
29.
so the SAU office is gonna be 27,
Yeah, 27 years after that.
right?
Good.
For
Yep.
construction?
For the SAU office.
Yep, and then the
Says
rest of
3 years,
29,
right?
right?
Yeah,
Then the rest would be, no, those two are the 29, Middle and Moose Hill.
right, just put construction for now, Amy, then,
Okay.
right? So 27 would be.
3 years.
Because you're gonna wanna, you
Yeah.
gotta give him time, and you gotta build it and all that.
So the elementary and the high school would be 28, right?
Yeah, out to the window,
Yep, and then the other two are 29, right?
Yeah.
Did you say, Steve?
yeah.
I just don't like all those dates in the 6 years because we're contradicting
Everything
what
that-
we've talked about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but why, because I thought it was going off the 24 to 29, so we can go further out than 29?
No, this is a 6-year, but putting the dates on, people are gonna look at that, they're gonna build all these by 29?
Oh, yeah, right.
Right,
That's the problem.
that's
Yeah, I
the
agree.
problem, but that's as far as we can go.
You have to have dates, Amy? Or could it be,
Let me look into
to be
that.
determined?
Let me look into that.
On the
I'll leave the
dates.
dates for right now, and I'll look into whether we have to have a date on some of the projects that are 5 and further out.
Yeah,
'Cause I would, yeah, I would
That
assume
would
the
be-
criteria would, it says, you know, premature needs more research, there's nothing, you
Right.
can't, how can you?
How can you put a
Yeah.
date to it?
right.
Yeah.
So it should follow, do you know what we said, was saying, Amy? It should follow the other criteria
Yeah.
we were,
Yep.
when we were doing the 3 and the 6.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
To be
I mean,
determined.
usually,
TBD.
usually the
Yeah.
6th year, if everybody understands, is for us.
But it looks like we're
It's not
loading
even
up
here.
the 6-year to
The
the
6-year
public.
one
Yeah.
is, it's there, it's long-term, I gotta put, I can only go 6 years,
The optics, though, it's
I
not-
get it.
Right, yeah.
I'm
Right,
just
and it
telling you
also
how
doesn't
it's,
match, so.
yeah,
We did good and we get to the last cell and we,
yeah.
we put $300 million in the last year.
Now, at 3, wouldn't that desirable, at 4 to 6 years, we should be able to put a date on that one, right?
Which one?
For high school?
29?
that we could.
Yeah.
Yep, you're right, Steve.
I thought we had it like in the year, I thought we just said 2028.
28 and 29?
I had that for the elementary school
Okay.
and the high school. If I need to change that, we can.
I just didn't want the middle school.
See, they're both the same, they're both 3s, so
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
that
both
gets
29.
us into a
right?
little,
Yeah.
but you could do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Are those the dates you were looking for all of them?
So, elementary school project, wouldn't that be the same as the one above?
Yeah,
Just
just say priority 3.
copy this piece there?
Yes, yeah, I hadn't gotten to that,
Oh, okay.
getting the priority 3. Okay,
Right.
Good?
that look good?
All right. Committee good? Members, yeah, good? All right. Amy, how are you, all set?
I am all set
Met
with
the
the
objectives?
spreadsheet.
Okay. The other item on the agenda, are we ready to move on to the agenda? Okay, other
Got one
business?
question on
Yep.
price real quick.
Yep.
Yeah, obviously, if we're tearing down a building, where are we gonna put the kids, and does the price include portables, or
But
what do you
South
do
School?
with, what do you do with 300 kids if you tear down
It
that
looks like in
school?
each one
We're
of them, I know.
We're talking South School?
Phased.
It was
Okay,
phased in,
all
so they
right.
would actually
So they
build
would
that,
move
them
around
over,
it,
yeah,
okay.
and then, yeah,
Okay,
stop it.
so then the price of the 20 million or
It
whatever
includes
would
it to you.
include, okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Does that includes it?
perfect, thank you.
Okay. No other business? No other business?
Chairman, the next meetings that are planned is for the the planning board work session to be on Wednesday, September 14th, and the planning board public hearing would be Wednesday, October 5th. The next steps for us are, I take the information, I go back, I write the report, I email it out to you guys to receive comment back, and then we present it at the planning board work session to the planning board.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I just, because it came up a bunch during these discussions, just following up on the form itself, the
Yeah, the recommended changes?
recommended changes. And if
We
I
could tackle
could
that.
actually I would think that that should come from the school district.
Does that have to be discussed now, or can we discuss it at another committee meeting?
No, I'm just kind of from a,
I think maybe we bring it up as part of the workshop.
I
Yeah.
think it's really
Not
good, it's
even-
something that
I
becomes
think
in
it
the
actually needs-
purview of the planning board,
Correct.
so it really has to come up when we're
right.
at the board.
So I would advise the school district to email Chairman Art Rugg with this suggestion that we need to update
Yeah.
these forms for.
Oh, he knows. I probably.
We'll be sure to bring it
Lisa
up.
and I probably, Lisa and I probably gonna come up with some ideas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
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 that would be
yeah.
good.
if
Can you share those with us?
Probably share
Or
those.
with me? I can
Maybe.
put changes, just so we can
You can
see.
email it to me, I can make sure the committee and
Yeah.
Art gets the
I'll go.
All
the
right.
suggested changes, so
I get
that
it.
we have something to work with.
Yeah,
Motion to
I'll send it to Amy.
Perfect, thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, moved.
And you're
All
gonna-
in favor?
You're gonna send me a link.
Aye. Meeting
You're sending me
adjourned.
a link for Thursday.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you all.